colleagues, representatives of national human rights institutions who have requested for the floor. Let me read out the institutions who have been listed to make a statement. CNDH Mali, ACHPR Buhari, affiliation number 21. Please be ready if you are with us. CNDH Mali, CNDH Mauritania, Buhabei Ahmed Saleh, affiliation number 22. Kindly get ready to join us, please. National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria, Mr. Anthony Ojoko, affiliation number 11. Kindly get ready to take the floor as well. Ethiopia Human Rights Commission, Mr. Daniel Bekele, affiliation number 18. Kindly be ready to join us and take the floor, please. CNDH RDC, Mwamba Mushikonke Mume. CNDH RDC, if you are with us, kindly be ready to join us. Namidata Sangare, affiliation number 25. Also, if you are with us, kindly join us. I do understand that there was a request for making two statements from the National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria, one on silencing the guns, the theme of the year, and another one on end SARS situation in Nigeria as well. Etwell, do we have representatives of these institutions? If we can start, the first one is CNDH Mali. ACHPR Buhari. No? Okay. CNDH Mauritania. CNDH Mauritania. Can you check, Etwell, can you check? Somebody is saying yes. I don't know who that is on the chat.
Maybe they could raise their hand so that we see them, because we are not seeing that name.
Okay, I'm not sure if that one has to do with the institution. I think it has to do with the end SARS reference that I've made earlier on. So how about CNDH Mauritania? Mr. Bohabeni Ahmed Saleh? CNDH Mauritania? No? National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria, Mr. Anthony Ojoko. Okay. Do we have Ethiopia Human Rights Commission? Do we have Mr. Daniel Bekele? Okay. How about CNHRDC? Mr. Mwamba Mwemi, Mwemu, CNHRDC. Okay. It looks like that we have. No. Is it a connection problem or?
We can see all the participants, but we're not seeing those names. They're not raising their hands. We cannot see them.
How about Namidata Sangare? All right, in that case, we shall then proceed to invite representatives of civil society organizations with observer status with the African Commission. The first is Center for Reproductive Rights. Miriam Thenge, observer status 358.
Mais attends, il y a quand même une logique dans ça.
C'est toi qui m'as...
Ouais, ok, continue. Arrête de parler.
Center for Reproductive Rights.
Ça, c'est le relais. Maintenant, va là-bas. Ici, ça.
Yes, we do have Mariama Tenge.
Great. Miriam, kindly.
Can you give me co-host quickly, please? Co-host, give me co-host quickly so that I move on. Give me co-host. Miriam.
Hello, Honorable Commissioners. I speak on behalf of the Center for Reproductive Rights.
Wait, Miriam, wait.
Sorry.
We would like to put the video on.
My camera seems to be blurred. If I can proceed just without the video, is that okay, Honorable Chair?
Just a minute. Ordinarily, I think as we have to present ourselves clearly, I think it's always important that we put on our video. I think for the present purpose, I just wish to indicate to colleagues as they come forward to just do that, please. I don't know what's happening with Miriam, but you have.
I'm trying.
You have
Sorry,
5 minutes.
Honorable Chair. Okay. Can I proceed, Honorable Chair?
You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Honorable Commissioners, I speak on behalf of the Center for Reproductive Rights. The Center commends the Commission for its continuous efforts to protect and promote sexual and reproductive health and rights of women and girls as provided for in the Maputo Protocol. We recognize the importance of cross-mechanism engagement and would like to acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of the Commission to engage with the Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and specifically the chairperson's statements during the 35th ordinary session of the committee, in which he highlighted the challenges that adolescents are facing while seeking sexual and reproductive health services, including increased cases of teenage pregnancies and sexual violence during the pandemic. We are, however, concerned that despite numerous highlights of how the pandemic affects access to sexual and reproductive health services, women and girls are still facing several challenges while seeking sexual and reproductive health services and information. Since our last statement during the 66th ordinary session on this issue, we've witnessed governments easing containment measures, a surge of COVID-19 cases, and significant shift to social responsibility to curb the virus. We have also witnessed a shift in prioritization by governments from the well-being of its citizens to political engagements, including political rallies ahead of elections and referendum, for instance, in Kenya. The adverse effects of these activities have been rise in number of COVID-19 cases, health facilities at the rural areas being overwhelmed, and health professionals threatening to go on strike due to the lack of proper equipment and delays in implementing a remuneration plan as part of COVID-19 measures to ensure safety and welfare of health professionals. We are further concerned that in the midst of a pandemic, which has seen a case in rise of violence against women and girls, opposition groups are spreading misleading information and blocking legislations aimed at ensuring women and girls have access to safe and legal abortion. The situation is further exacerbated by non-compliance of court orders. For instance, Government of Kenya is here to implement high court orders, reinstating standard and guidelines on reducing maternal morbidity and mortality due to unsafe abortion in Kenya. These actions, honorable commissioners, are against the spirit of Maputo Protocol and the decriminalization campaign that was launched by the Commission in 2016. Honorable commissioners, upholding human rights is a prerequisite for any democratic state. We are concerned about increased human rights violation in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. Human rights defenders are continuously being harassed for challenging authorities for failure to uphold fundamental rights during the pandemic. For instance, in Zimbabwe, 3 women human rights defenders were arrested for peacefully demonstrating against government's failure to address hunger during the pandemic. These women were subjected to torture by state security agents, including being beaten and sexually assaulted. The women were further charged with breaking COVID-19 lockdown regulation that forbid gathering for protest and for falsehood against the state. In October, several people went into the streets in Nigeria calling on the government to abolish the controversial police unit, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, for continuously violating human rights, including through torture, sexual assault, extrajudicial killings, and extortion. These protesters were, however, faced by police brutality, with several cases of police using force during the protests, killing protesters and others sustaining injuries. Honorable commissioners, it is well documented that women and girls are disproportionately affected by pandemics, crises, and conflict. The growing unrest in various countries in the midst of a pandemic must be addressed to safeguard women's rights, including access to sexual and reproductive health and services. We recognize the efforts that the Commission has made so far, including an appeal to the government of Nigeria to address violence against protesters. We urge the Commission to consistently engage with state parties to ensure that these recommendations are implemented and that human rights defenders, including Amnesty International, operate in an enabling environment without fear of reprisals. We further urge the Commission to reach out to Zimbabwe government and ensure justice for the 3 women who were assaulted for engaging in a peaceful protest. Finally, we urge the Commission to consistently remind state parties of their obligation to provide the full range of sexual and reproductive health and services by reviewing national laws to guarantee access to safe and legal abortion. I thank you all.
Thank you very much. That is Center for Reproductive Rights, highlighting issues relating to the Maputo Protocol in particular, those concerning sexual and reproductive rights, including access to sexual reproductive services, access to sexual reproductive information, highlight also the impact of COVID-19 response, particularly on health systems as well as health workers, and the challenge that health workers are facing, issues relating to safe and legal abortion, with specific reference to non-implementation of court orders, particularly the court orders, the High Court order of Kenya, issues relating to the NSAR's protest in Nigeria, and in that respect, the attention drawn to the Commission about the reprisals that those who participated, laid or covered the NSAR's movement are facing, including colleagues in Amnesty International. I think the issues relating to the 3 women in Zimbabwe is also a point that is well noted. I see the advocate Bongani of the South Africa Human Rights Commission informing us that he is with us and has been waiting to hear the name of the South Africa Human Rights Commission. I think if you are ready, advocate, we can give you the floor to make your statement. Since the other registered national human rights institutions are not available, I think we can have Advocate Bongani Majola, Chairperson of the South Africa National Human Rights Commission.
This is what I saw about South Africa.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, Honorable Commissioners, and
for coming.
And delegates. Thank you very much for the opportunity to given to the South African Human Rights Commission to make a few general remarks. We would like just to also appreciate the fact that in spite of COVID-19, the African Commission has continued with its work, and that's very appreciated. And we would like to pledge support to the honorable commissioners and to the staff. Like many other countries, of course, South Africa, in relation to the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, declared the national state of disaster and imposed a very strict and mandatory lockdown. But while we commend the government and while we commend other governments of, in the continent for their swift action, there were unfortunately many serious violations of human rights in those actions that were taken. The lockdown brought untold suffering to many of their citizens and inhabitants generally. There were wide reports of excessive use of force and blatant police brutality by some members of law enforcement agencies. Regrettably, rights such as the right to life were frequently violated, this we saw in South Africa and also in Nigeria, and which is quite regretted. Other abuses included the beating up of civilians and the harassment and detention of journalists who reported on government violations. We saw gender-based violence on the increase and the arrest and harassment of human rights defenders. There were also cases of torture that were reported. Regrettably, also in my own country, we saw that the xenophobic sentiment was fueled, as a result of which many migrants were actually discriminated against and persecuted. We tried to intervene in some cases, but in other cases, such as the looting of their shops, it was difficult to do so. We continue, however, to condemn this and to engage with the government on these problems. Now, what I would like to highlight is that all these human rights violations, of course, occur against the background of an African Union that has now committed itself to human rights in various ways, including adopting a decade for human rights. And so this apparent increase in human rights violations creates a concern for us as the South African Human Rights Commission about the independence of the African Commission, because that commission plays a very important role in the continent, and we think that its independence and its role are both under threat. We therefore wish to urge member states of the African Union who have committed themselves to the decade of human rights to actually enhance the independence of the Commission and to protect it, because that way I think that their own objectives are going to be served well. So the enforcement of the lockdowns has also significantly undermined socio-economic rights in South Africa and elsewhere. Basic services such as water, sanitation, access to healthcare, education, housing, and so on have all been negatively affected. COVID-19 is having a devastating impact on our economy. Consequently, millions of livelihoods have been affected in this country. But even before COVID-19, South Africa suffered from high levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. So COVID-19 simply just exacerbated them and continues to do so. Service delivery to marginalized members of society is threatened because of the low tax base. Very sadly, in that mix, we find that corruption has shown its ugly head and plays a prominent role to whittle away the little resources that are there. Now, corruption is inimical to a culture of human rights, and we would like to highlight it because we would like other NHRIs and the African Commission to work on this. Finally, Chairperson, we noted that under the lockdown, school children sometimes went to school, sometimes they couldn't go to school because of the fear of infection to themselves and to the teachers. But then those who come from better resourced families were able to continue with their education, while those that come from poor and marginalized communities were unable to do so. This therefore means for the whole of Africa that we need to embrace the fourth industrial revolution, and we should actually all work towards an Africa that subscribes to the idea and implements the industrial revolution. Finally, I just would like to say that the scourge of racism and discrimination is still there. You may have noticed the IAAF, the International Association of Athletics Federations, which has barred a South African athlete, two-time Olympic winner, from competing because they feel that she has to take some medication in order to control her testosterone levels. And we think that it is a big discrimination, and we're fighting against it. We would be happy if also the African Commission could express a voice on that one, because this doesn't only affect a person in South Africa, but it affects people in the continent and elsewhere. Finally, Chairperson, I know I said finally before, that was preliminary. Now, finally, I would like to say the Commission pledges full support to the African Commission on human and people's rights, because we think that's the only way we can promote and protect rights in this continent. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Majola, Chairperson of the South Africa Human Rights Commission, for providing us with your insights and statements of the South African Human Rights Commission with respect to a number of human rights issues that you have been working on in the context of the strict lockdown that has been enforced in South Africa, and the impact, and indeed to quote you, the untold suffering that it has brought about, particularly on the most vulnerable section of society. The various human rights issues that you have highlighted, from excessive use of force and the violations on the right to life that it has resulted in, beatings and harassment, as well as cases of torture, the harassment of journalists, gender-based violence, and of course, the reference that you have made to the xenophobic sentiments that have been fueled, leading to incidents of attacks and lootings of shops, in respect of which we at the African Commission, of course, appreciate the intervention and responses that the South African National Human Rights Commission mobilized. And as you indeed expressed your full support to our commission, which we welcome with a great deal of appreciation, I wish to also express our strong support to the South Africa National Human Rights Commission as one of the Chapter 9 institutions that is doing a sterling work, particularly in terms of being the guardian of human rights, the guardian of democratic governance in South Africa. We take note of your concern around the independence of our commission. Indeed, the independence of our commission is the cornerstone of the work of this commission, which we take very, very seriously. It is a matter of the integrity of the commission. It's a matter of fulfilling the promise in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and therefore something that we have to safeguard as the African Commission for first and foremost. And this is not only in respect of our relationship with the states parties to the African Charter, but also with all our stakeholders, that independence of the Commission cuts across all our relationships. So whatever influence or pressure that comes from all sources compromise the independence of the Commission. So we take that seriously. The socioeconomic rights dimension of the impact of the lockdown that you have highlighted, including its impact on service delivery, the aggravation of an already difficult employment condition in South Africa. I also wish to take note, and indeed, it has been a sad thing for us to witness at the African Commission that individuals who have been entrusted with the responsibility of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic instead opted for taking advantage of the pandemic for pocketing money into their own pockets. I think this is the most blatant disregard of the interest and the trust bestowed on them. It is such a very serious and indeed unfortunate situation that we have witnessed, something that we have to speak out against, something we have to support, to express support for those who speak against, who write about these events. And of course, also the digital divide that you spoke about, particularly as it relates to schools and children access to education in a context like this one. These are some of the issues that we have also spoken about during the opening segment of the Commission, highlighting, underscoring, and identifying them as the most pressing human rights issues of our time, including in my opening remark, racial discrimination and attack have been identified as such. So certainly we share your sentiment that the impact of racial discrimination is not limited to events outside of the continent, but it affects directly people here on the continent. And the example that you gave of the South African athlete is emblematic of the need for us to speak also against racial discrimination and attacks. We thank you for your statement, Chairperson. I do understand that we also have Malawi Human Rights Commission that also registered
on the continent. In this connection, it is worth lauding the efforts made by African countries through the African Union to further strengthen the peace and security machinery of our continental organization, thus translating into concrete action the willingness of Africans to stamp out these ills. For it must be recalled, upholding peace and security remains an indispensable prerequisite for the enjoyment of civil, economic, and cultural rights, especially considering that they are intricately bound to each other and mutually inclusive. My country, whose attachment to peace needs no further proof, sincerely appreciates the involvement of the African Union in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, against the backdrop of the decisive action taken by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. Cameroon welcomes the preemptive actions of the Africa CDC in the early stages of the health crisis in an effort to guarantee greater resilience of the continent in the face of this virus. The technical support given by the Center to our states helped us contain the virus in a very significant manner. Monsieur le Président, honorables commissaires, mesdames et messieurs, le Cameroun s'est résolument engagé à promouvoir et à protéger les droits de l'homme. Pendant l'intercession, il a mené un certain nombre d'actions majeures. S'agissant de la crise socio-politique qui prévaut dans les régions administratives du Nord-Ouest et du Sud-Ouest, je voudrais rappeler que le gouvernement camerounais continue à faire face dans cette partie du territoire à des actes criminels, des actes barbares et de déstabilisation. Des actes perpétrés par des groupes terroristes sécessionnistes qui utilisent des méthodes extrêmement violentes, lesquelles continuent de causer de nombreuses pertes en vies humaines, des mouvements massifs de personnes, ainsi que d'importants dégâts matériels et la destruction du tissu économique des dites régions. À la lumière des dernières évolutions sur le terrain, il paraît clairement qu'à ces revendications sécessionnistes se greffent désormais des actes criminels, avec en toile de fond des enlèvements et des demandes de rançon. L'exemple le plus récent est le kidnapping du cardinal émérite Christian Toumi et de Sa Majesté Mbinglo, chef supérieur de Kumbo, le jeudi 5 novembre. Face à ces contraintes, le gouvernement camerounais, sous la très haute impulsion de son Excellence Paul Biya, président de la République, chef de l'État, poursuit avec dévouement et détermination ses efforts en vue de la pacification de ces régions administratives concernées et d'un retour définitif à la paix. Ces efforts visent, entre autres, la mise en place du statut spécial institué en faveur des régions en question et qui découle des résolutions du Grand Dialogue national qui s'est tenu du 30 septembre au 4 octobre 2019. Je dois relever que la mise en place de ce statut spécial, qui est une réponse aux besoins d'autonomisation des communautés concernées, connaîtra un coup d'accélérateur avec les élections régionales projetées le 6 décembre 2020. Toutes les dispositions sont prises afin que ces échéances se déroulent dans un climat de sérénité similaire à celui qu'a connu le double scrutin des élections législatives et municipales du 9 février dernier. Donc, l'organisation a été remarquable. Les efforts de pacification des régions du Nord-Ouest et du Sud-Ouest concernent aussi la poursuite du dialogue avec l'ensemble des parties prenantes en vue de dégager des solutions rapides, porteuses d'actions promptes et efficaces. Un accent particulier est mis dans le même sens sur la sécurisation des personnes et de leurs biens, pour laquelle nos forces de défense et de sécurité demeurent mobilisées. Récemment encore, le droit à la vie et le droit à l'éducation, pour la mise en œuvre desquels l'État camerounais s'active avec engagement, ont connu des graves entraves. Des graves entraves avec les récentes tueries de 8 enfants, une tuerie barbare dans une école dans la localité de Kumba. Ceci s'est passé le 24 octobre 2020 et a été perpétré par des groupes terroristes. Des tueries qui ont suscité la consternation et l'amertume de l'ensemble de la communauté nationale et internationale. On évoque dans le même registre l'assassinat de Sa Majesté Molinga François Nango, chef traditionnel du village Liou, à Malele, dans la région du Sud-Ouest.
As I indicated earlier on,
Novembre
you
2020.
had 7 minutes. That has gone way beyond 7 minutes. So this is to ask you if you could wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I will do my best. Un autre chapitre sur lequel l'État s'est beaucoup investi depuis le début de la crise porte sur l'encadrement et la protection des personnes déplacées internes. Le gouvernement a mobilisé d'importants moyens financiers, y compris dans le cadre de la solidarité nationale, en vue d'apporter tout l'appui et tout le soutien nécessaire aux personnes qui ont été obligées de quitter leurs différentes zones d'habitation. Mr. Chairperson, as I earlier mentioned, legislative and council elections, as well as upcoming regional elections in our country, would be held. And this is in an effort to accelerate the process of decentralization. This process is being governed and conducted through our electoral body, and which works taking into consideration the need for gender mainstreaming. In other words, Mr. Chairperson, this is to say my country is bent on strengthening its democracy, which is the center of gravity for stability and peace, peaceful coexistence in a country which is known for its diversity of ethnic, religious, and cultural components, which we think and hope would be a source for strength, not a cause for problems. My country wishes to make additional steps towards strengthening the promotion and protection of human rights. In this light, Mr. Chairperson, the constructive dialogue we wish to engage with the Commission as part of deliberations of this session, we will be submitting ourselves to the exercise of examining and defending our report, accounting for the 4th, 5th, and 6th periodic reports falling under the African Charter on Human Rights, Human and People's Rights, as well as the first report under the Maputo Protocol and the Kampala Convention. Honorable Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, my country would wish once more to hail the dialogue engaged with the African Commission on Human Rights and Human and People's Rights, and the work we are doing in close collaboration with the Special Rapporteur in charge of Cameroon, and as for that purpose, been providing the latter with useful and relevant information that might help in having a clear grasp of the overall human rights situation in Cameroon, as well as the efforts being made by the government to ensure the protection and promotion of human rights in the country. Finally, in order to enable our commission to successfully carry out its missions and achieve its objectives, it is indispensable that we raise the requisite financial resources. The various heads of the Cameroonian delegation to various sessions of the conference have always advocated for this increase in financial resources. In this connection, my country intends to continue cooperating with all human rights mechanisms in total transparency and serenity. Cameroon is aware that much has been done, but much still has to be done. That is the reason why more than ever before, Cameroon urges the African Commission on Human Rights and Human and People's Rights to support its effort in the process of consolidating the human rights culture at the national level. In this perspective, the observations you will make following the presentation of our periodic reports during this session shall be given special attention and given pride of place. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and particularly for your indulgence, given that we went beyond our 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
Indeed, Minister, we also wish to thank you for your participation in this 67th ordinary session of the Commission. We also thank Cameroon for the submission of its state report and indeed its readiness to join us during the course of this session for the review of the Cameroon state report. We wish to recognize with appreciation the fact that Cameroon submitted its report not only in respect to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, but also in respect to the Maputo Protocol, and indeed that of the Kampala Convention, which we look forward to engage closely during the review process. It's also in recognition of that appreciation that I have allowed you to go far beyond the allocated time. It's also good to hear the various measures and steps that are being taken in Cameroon as far as the promotion and protection of human rights, and indeed the multidimensional challenge that you have highlighted as a result of not only the COVID-19 pandemic, but also existing issues relating to the socio-political crisis that you have highlighted, and the operation of terrorist organizations linked to Boko Haram, which also had its own impact. We acknowledge with appreciation indeed the commitment that you have expressed of Cameroon's attachment to peace and security, and the recognition of the support you have received from Africa CDC. And with respect to, I think, the socio-political crisis in the north and southwest of the country that you have mentioned, indeed, this commission joins all Cameroonians in expressing its condolences and with the families of what happened in Kamba, the 8 children who have been brutally killed while attending school. This is an attack against the right to life. This is an attack against the safety of children. This is an attack against the right to education. It's something that we at the African Commission indeed condemn in the strongest terms possible. These violent attacks and the kidnappings that you have mentioned are also testament to the imperative and the need and urgency of bringing comprehensive solution through a political process, through a peace process to the situation in Cameroon. We also take note of the measures that Cameroon is taking to protect the interests and rights of IDPs. This is internal displacement is one of the consequences of insecurity and crisis, and another manifestation of why we need to do everything to bring to an end to this situation. As we say this, of course, we are mindful that there is indeed a need for a thorough, independent, and impartial investigation of in what transpired, what happened, and who did what. That is also another important mechanism through which we can address these human rights issues that arise in this context. We also welcome the commitment you have expressed for cooperation with our commission, and we do hope that we look forward to receive responses for the urgent letters of appeal and other communications that we have sent as well. And finally, you indicated that regional elections are being prepared for December 2020, and we do hope that these elections, the conduct of these elections, will not lead to the disenfranchisement of those sections of the population in areas affected by the socio-political crisis that you have made reference to earlier on. But we look forward, generally, Minister, to the engagement that we will be having and the opportunity that the report of Cameroon presents to us for that constructive engagement. Thank you once again very much. I'm not sure if there is any other states party who wish to take the floor, but I have a list of national human rights institutions who have requested for the floor. So what I will do now is basically to ask the Malawi Human Rights Commission if the Reverend Patrick Sfene, Chairperson of Malawi Human Rights Commission, is with us. I wish to give the floor to the Chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission of Malawi.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Commissioners. Looks like I have a challenge with my camera. So I hope you don't mind me just delivering, an audio statement. I hope that's okay with you, Honorable Chair.
All right. This it's a manifestation of, I think, the internet and connection issues that we need to address here on our continent, as much of our work moves into this digital space. So yes, Reverend, you may proceed. Kindly note that you have 5 minutes only. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. On behalf of the Malawi Human Rights Commission, I wish to commend the African Commission for creating this very critical forum amidst very difficult COVID-19 circumstances. Our statement is based on the mandate of the Malawi Human Rights Commission, which is an independent national human rights institution established under Chapter 11 of the Constitution of the Republic of Malawi, and also read with Section 12 of the Human Rights Commission Act. Essentially, our mandate is premised on promoting and protecting human rights in the broadest sense. But more critically, the Commission has been given additional mandates. Number one, to enforce the implementation of the Gender Equality Act, and also number two, to oversee the implementation of the Access to Information Act. So we feel incredibly honored as a Commission that amidst all the, amidst so many well-deserving institutions, that the Commission could be tasked with these very critical human rights related mandates. It is therefore necessary for me to provide a status on the progress that we've made as a national human rights institution, and some critical impediments that we are facing in our efforts to ensure that we are walking the talk. To begin with, as a Commission, we want to commend Malawi government for fulfilling its obligations by submitting the second periodic report to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and Maputo Protocol. A national task force was instituted and brought together a technical team that ably addressed the 2015 concluding observations and the recommendations. And as a Human Rights Commission, we contributed to that state report. Malawi Human Rights Commission continued to conduct investigations into complaints of human rights violations and facilitation of access to justice by aggrieved parties through mediation, litigation, public inquiries, and systemic human rights violations. The Commission investigated a number of cases, which included high-profile cases, such as the death of a police officer while on duty, sexual harassment and loss of property in Nsungwe, Lilongwe, a case of landless ex-workers of Press Agriculture in Kasungu, some spillage of oil from Sunseed Oil Company in Lilongwe, but also the death of Bulea Lule in police custody, among others. The Commission also monitored the places of detention, including prisons and police holding cells. It's been noted, Honorable Chair, that Malawi continues to face challenges of congestion in its prisons. In 2020, this compounded efforts by government to contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. We also conducted a rapid assessment on measures instituted by government towards COVID-19. And through the assessment, the Commission has made a number of strategic recommendations to the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Further, we also monitored and produced reports on the 2019 general elections and the 2020 presidential elections and public protests that followed after the 2019 elections. Malawi has registered some positive strides with respect to human rights promotion and protection. And one of the key milestones is the enactment of the Access to Information Act in 2017. The law came into effect in September of 2020 and is only now awaiting the publication of the regulations in order for it to be fully operational. As I conclude, Honorable Chair, allow me to front some recommendations that we would wish to submit to the African Commission that relate to how we think Malawi should pursue its obligations of facilitating the promotion and protection of human rights. Number one, we want to recommend that the Malawi government should fast track the adoption of the long outstanding National Action Plan for the protection and promotion of human rights in Malawi. This will provide guidance to the government and other stakeholders in the development and implementation of human rights programs in the country. Secondly, government needs to strengthen prevention, protection, and prosecution of perpetrators through the existing National Albinism Plan, which is comprehensive and guides all sectors in implementation. Thirdly, while Malawi enacted the Malawi Handicapped Act in 1971 and the Disability Act in 2012, both pieces of legislation have been reviewed with the aim of consolidating them into one law. However, the draft disability bill is yet to be enacted, and I think we need to see some movement in this regard. Fourthly, women and girls continue to bear the brunt of gender-based violence. COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the violence due to suspension of schools and people working from home. According to the recent study conducted by the Ministry of Gender, cases of child marriages and teenage pregnancies extremely increased during COVID-19, and the figures are alarming. So we think that this needs to be, some attention. And then next, conditions of detention and the right to human dignity. This area needs also some attention. We want to recommend that government expedites the process of reviewing the Prison Act, as well as providing increased budgetary support to the Malawi prison service, among other measures. This is critical and needs to expand as there is need to expand the holding capacity of our prisons. Lastly, the high levels of corruption and abuse of public resources are not acceptable. Malawi has recently recorded a number of high-profile corruption cases, most of which are in the courts as we speak. The impact of corruption on the realization of economic, social, and cultural rights cannot be overemphasized. Abuse of public resources deprives the state of its potential to provide crucial services to its citizens. We want to comment that Malawi harnesses the progress made in the area of human rights and continue to improve areas that are facing challenges, including adequate funding to the Commission.
Your time is up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair, and we trust that we will continue to interface with the African Commission as we seek to pursue more enjoyment of the citizens' enjoyment of human rights. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I do hope that you have established contact with the country rapporteur of Malawi, through whom the Commission on regularly basis monitors the human rights situation in Malawi and engages human rights actors in Malawi. So I wish to invite you to establish and enhance this contact with the country rapporteur of Malawi of the African Commission. We also wish to thank you for updating us about both the work of the Commission, but also some of the human rights issues that you drew the attention of the Commission to in terms of areas that require attention from the side of the state party of Malawi. We welcome particularly the work that you have done around the investigations on various cases relating to the death of a police officer, sexual violence, spillage of oil, days in the custody of police, among other things. We also welcome the fact that the the law on access to information has come into effect in September 2020, and we look forward to its effective implementation, indeed, through your active role. I'm sure the Special Rapporteur for freedom of expression and access to information of our Commission also would follow this positive development closely with appreciation. We also indeed join you in supporting your push for the Disability Act to come to be adopted and come into effect. In this respect as well, I'm sure the Special Rapporteur on the rights of older persons and persons with disabilities would also follow this with interest. It is indeed a sad reality, as you rightly said. We have been receiving these statements from the 6.6 session until now, particularly this epidemic of sexual and gender-based violence targeting women and girls. As you pointed out, the figures are very alarming, coming from the Gender Directorate and the Gender Ministry. And we do hope, actually, that states do not just express alarm and don't do anything about it. And we invite you, given the gravity of the situation, as you put it, for you as the National Human Rights Commission of Malawi to actually prioritize a very emergency response in order to really address this very alarming epidemic of violence against women and girls. Without such kind of concerted and indeed emergency intervention, I think this trend can be very, very dangerous. We also take note of the various other points that you have made in relation to conditions of detention, for which our country special rapporteur on conditions of detention would also follow with interest. We only join you in condemning acts of corruption in our continent and indeed in Malawi as well. It is completely unacceptable. It is an act, the highest form of betrayal of trust of the public, and indeed it has very dire consequences for the well-being of our people. We join you in the work towards addressing the scourge of corruption on our continent as well. And we do hope that you also take note of the joint statement that we issued between ourselves at the African Commission and the African Board Against Corruption, the African Union Board Against Corruption. Thank you very much once again for your statement. We look forward to the presentation of Malawi's report, hopefully during the next organization, the 68th organization. May I now request if we have Zambia with us, the Zambia Human Rights Commission. I have received a note that we have a representative of Zambia Human Rights Commission. Thank you very much. Kindly take the floor. As you do so, please switch on the mic and also the video.
Good afternoon, Chair. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you. We would appreciate it if we can see you as well, please.
Let me try. Let me try to connect.
Much appreciated.
Okay, there we are.
Great. Good.
Okay.
Thank you. And you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Honorable Commissioners of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, representatives of state parties, national human rights institutions, civil society organizations present. May I simply say, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to be a part of this 67th session, and privileged indeed to be able to make a statement as the National Human Rights Institution of Zambia. Would like to commend the Commission, the African Commission, for putting together this session amidst challenging times. Chair, may I begin by congratulating Zambia on the appointment of the Human Rights Commission Chairperson as a Commissioner on the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Indeed, this appointment provides an opportunity for Zambia to contribute to fashioning the work and direction of the African Commission as a whole, and to effectively respond to emerging human rights challenges. Chair, Commissioners, the international framework provides the standard of measuring adherence to human rights and fundamental freedoms. At the regional level, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights provides one of the most progressive instruments globally. The Charter is unique in that it sets out human rights standards anchored on an African perspective. As a state party, Zambia has come a long way in complying with the requirement to submit periodic reports, and this should be applauded. The situation of human rights in Africa has moments of celebration and moments of grave sadness. Much as strides have been made, Africa has a long way to go in actualizing the realization of human rights and freedoms for all. As Zambia, as is the same with several other African countries, Zambia will be holding its general elections in 2021. The respect for and the promotion of fundamental freedoms of expression, assembly, and association, as well as protection against arbitrary arrests or detention, torture, and extrajudicial killings are critical to the democratic participation of citizens in matters of governance. There is therefore a need for all stakeholders to continuously dialogue on matters that have potential to undermine the credibility of the electoral process. Further, the respect for constitutionalism, rule of law, and human rights is the hallmark of an inclusive system of governance based on the free will of the people. There is an opportunity for inmates in Zambia to exercise their right to vote in the 2021 general elections following a judgment from the Constitutional Court. This was in the case of Geoffrey Malembeka versus the Attorney General and the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Chair, Commissioners, although they may not be any documented scientific evidence, it can be fairly stated that political violence has had an adverse effect on women and youth participation. This therefore calls for specific interventions targeted at women and the youth in order to improve their peaceful, informed, and popular participation. In addition, another cardinal lesson is that victims of the suppression of the right to freedom of association, assembly, and expression, in some cases, have ended up being victims of arbitrary detentions or arrests, which included over-detention, torture, inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment, while in some extreme cases, incidences of extrajudicial killings and or murder were recorded. The Human Rights Commission of Zambia strongly believes that promoting and protecting the stated civil and political rights is essential to the promotion of the expression of the free will of the electorate as a matter of right, particularly as enshrined under Article 21(3) of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as the right to participate freely in the governance of their country, either directly or through freely chosen representatives in accordance with the provisions of Article 13(1) of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Chair, Commissioners, distinguished delegates, the consequences of COVID-19 on Africa and indeed on Zambia have been immediate, yet the full appreciation of the impact on Africa in months and years to come is yet to be ascertained. What is certain is that there will be negative consequences on our economies, and that will in turn have an adverse impact on the enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Access to basic human rights, particularly economic, social, and cultural rights, has been further limited with the advent of the coronavirus pandemic. As resources were directed to responding to the pandemic, whose prognosis is still work in progress, less went to other social services, mostly impacting on the vulnerable that remain women, children, the youth, and persons with disabilities. In addition, the enforcement of COVID-19 public health regulations brought to the fore the violation of the freedom and security of the person, including incidences of the use of excessive force and over-detention. As reiterated by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the pandemic affects and will continue to affect various human rights, and therefore human rights should be at the center of all responses to the pandemic. The Commission remains concerned with the overcrowding in places of detention, which makes it difficult to adhere to the public health regulations, such as maintaining social distancing. Chair, Commissioners, the digital divide between the rich and the poor continues to leave the poor on the periphery of development. Again, the advent of COVID-19 has demonstrated the role that ICT plays in effective and efficient delivery of services, including access to information. The emergence of stricter cyber and data protection laws has the potential to infringe upon citizens' rights to privacy. There is therefore a need to strike the balance between cybersecurity, data protection, and human rights. The cost to
May I
victims—
indicate that time has passed, so if you could wrap up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm almost done. The cost to victims of violations of human rights is high, and in some cases, the damage is irreparable. Therefore, the state's duty to protect, respect, and fulfill all human rights is constant, more now than ever. We thank you, Chair and Commissioners, and for the opportunity to present a statement on behalf of the Zambia Human Rights Commission, and we look forward to further engagement with the Commission, and we stand committed to the work of the Commission. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement and also for your expression of collaboration with our Commission. We indeed look forward to your support for Zambia in the submission of its state report to the African Commission to help us have much more substantive engagement with Zambia. We take note of some of the developments that you have highlighted, including the preparations that are currently underway for convening the election in Zambia in 2021. In this respect, we at the African Commission indeed welcome the decision of the Constitutional Court of Zambia, which guaranteed the right of inmates to exercise the right to vote. I think to the extent that governance affects inmates directly, including in terms of the rights of persons in detention, it's only natural and logical that they are indeed granted the right to vote. We express our concern about issues relating to political violence that you have highlighted, particularly the impact of political violence on women and the youth, and indeed its adverse consequences in undermining free and fair election, in vitiating the free expression of the will of the people, affecting in particular women and youth. We also express concern and indeed condemn some of the human rights issues that you have highlighted, including those relating to, for example, extrajudicial killings. We do hope that through your work and indeed the work of others, the issues are addressed and dealt with. We also take note of the impact of COVID-19. We agree with you that it's one of the most worrying events that is unfolding on our continent, and indeed the full scope of the negative consequences, including on human rights of COVID-19, have yet to be seen, but we are certain, very certain that it wouldn't be a good one. And we have to work very hard in that respect. That is why I wish to draw the attention of Zambia Human Rights Commission to the Commission's resolution 449, whose implementation at the national level is critical in order to limit the dire human rights consequences of COVID-19. We also acknowledge and indeed underscore your point about the need to address the digital divide. If we don't address the digital divide, we face huge issues of service delivery and inequality. And indeed, that inequality will be deepened further without addressing it. Thank you so much once again. I have been informed that I don't know if there is any state delegation that wishes to take the floor, but from what I have, we have the Rwanda National Human Rights Commission that has been registered and is with us to take the floor. If we have the representative of Rwanda National Human Rights Commission with us. I have seen a note on the chat earlier on confirming the availability of Rwanda National Human Rights Commission. I think the name is Mari Claire Mukasine. Okay, I think I have indication that we have the representative of the Rwanda National Human Rights Commission. If you kindly take the floor, put on your mic and video.
Yes, there. There.
Very warm welcome, and you have 5 minutes, please. Thank you for joining us.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, Mesdames, Messieurs les commissaires de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, distingués invités et participants. C'est un grand honneur et privilège pour moi de m'adresser à cette auguste assemblée à l'occasion de la 67e session ordinaire de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, surtout que c'est la première fois que je participe à ce grand forum africain des droits de l'homme depuis que je suis à la tête de la Commission nationale des droits de la personne au Rwanda, donc depuis le mois de juillet cette année. Bien que je ne sois pas très profane à la matière, mais je compte beaucoup profiter de votre expérience. À propos de l'expérience, je voudrais, par mon intervention, partager avec vous l'expérience récente de la Commission nationale des droits de la personne au Rwanda, qui a privilégié ces derniers temps les enquêtes thématiques et le monitoring des droits spécifiques. Dans ce cadre, il y a des activités, je dirais, traditionnelles de surveillance du respect des droits des personnes spécifiques, entre autres la surveillance des droits des personnes vivant dans les centres pour personnes handicapées ou des personnes âgées, dans les camps de réfugiés, dans les prisons et cachots, et dans les centres de transit et de réhabilitation. Néanmoins, un nouveau centre d'attention nous a interpellés avec l'apparition et la généralisation de la pandémie du COVID-19 à travers le monde. Et pour cause, les risques que faisait peser cette nouvelle catastrophe sanitaire sur la vie de millions de gens ont occasionné la prise de mesures draconiennes susceptibles d'endiguer son expansion. Or, comme on devrait s'y attendre, les mesures préventives ont non seulement chamboulé le quotidien de tout individu, mais également porté une incidence mitigée sur la vie de toutes les personnes. Je dis mitigée parce que ces mesures sont à la fois salvatrices tout en enfreignant des libertés reconnues comme étant fondamentales. Il va de soi que tout de même qu'elles ont permis de réduire drastiquement le nombre de personnes contaminées dans nos pays respectifs. Dans la perspective de l'application de ces mesures, la Commission nationale des droits de la personne au Rwanda a pris l'initiative d'évaluer le respect des droits de la personne en cette période de pandémie de COVID-19. Il fallait voir si l'exécution des mesures préventives qui ont été adoptées par le gouvernement ne portait pas préjudice aux droits fondamentaux des personnes. Un rapport préliminaire a été publié au mois de juin, mais notre commission a conduit une autre étude plus détaillée sur l'impact des mesures préventives adoptées par le gouvernement. Et cette étude a été menée pour vérifier le respect des droits de la personne pendant toute cette période. Par ailleurs, notre commission a fait des enquêtes explicites sur des cas de violation des droits de la personne résultant de l'usage abusif et excessif de la force dans l'application de ces mesures. À cet effet, la Commission s'est rendue compte que des poursuites judiciaires contre les auteurs de ces violations étaient déjà en cours. Sans entrer dans le détail du rapport qui va sortir à la fin de ce mois, je tiens à vous dire que la Commission nationale des droits de la personne au Rwanda a apprécié le fait que le gouvernement avait mis à la disposition des personnes vulnérables et démunies des moyens de subsistance durant la période de confinement total. La population avait été également facilitée à accéder aux biens et aux services vitaux chaque fois que l'on mettait en place des restrictions de déplacement entre les provinces et districts. Plusieurs mesures d'accompagnement ont été mises en place pour faire face aux conséquences qui ont été apportées par cette pandémie. Enfin, il faut reconnaître que notre action d'évaluation nous a permis de nous rendre compte que la situation qui prévalait sur le terrain et d'identifier les défis et de formuler des recommandations qui seront bientôt transmises prochainement aux autorités locales compétentes au moment où nous allons publier les résultats de notre enquête. C'est ça, en gros, la petite expérience que je voulais voulais partager avec vous et voudrais saisir cette occasion pour vous assurer que la Commission nationale des droits de la personne au Rwanda est fortement engagée à continuer à apporter sa contribution à promouvoir le respect des droits de l'homme et des peuples en Afrique. Je vous remercie beaucoup de votre aimable attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson of the National Commission of Human Rights of Rwanda for your statement. We at the African Commission wish to congratulate you on your assignment of leadership of the National Human Rights Commission of Rwanda, and we wish to avail to you our support for you in this important work of promoting and protecting human rights in Rwanda, which is critical for the implementation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We do welcome the study that your commission is conducting in respect of the impact of COVID-19, particularly on the most vulnerable section of society and broadly on many aspects of human rights, including economic, social, and cultural rights and their enjoyment. We also welcome the investigations on alleged violations of human rights that your commission has also been conducting, and we look forward to the reports and outcome of these investigations. We wish to thank you for that.
Sorry, I couldn't get back to you yesterday where was that Zoom meeting ended up being disrupted.
Commissioner. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have now, let me go back to the previous list and request, I don't know if any of the other national human rights institutions are here with us. If they are here with us, they can give indication as to their availability. National human rights of Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria, Ethiopia, DRC. If you are here with us, just give us indication of your availability. We will give you the floor for you to make your statement. In the meantime, may I now request if we have colleagues, representatives of NGOs with observer status with the African Commission, particularly the NGO with observer status number 383. The NGO with observer status 383, João Manuel. João Manuel, are you with us? Okay, we have an indication that João Manuel is with us. Kindly put on the mic as well as the video as you take the floor, and also if you could take note that you have 5 minutes.
Alô? Vou entrar agora, me chamaram. Não tem nada.
Okay, Mr. João Malvidele. Here we have Manuel. All right. You are welcome. You have 5 minutes, please. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Muito obrigado, senhor presidente. Sua Excelência, senhor presidente da Comissão Africana dos Direitos Humanos e dos Povos, senhores comissários, representantes dos Estados, órgãos da União Africana e organizações intergovernamentais e internacionais das instituições nacionais de direitos humanos e de ONGs, as nossas saudações. Senhor Presidente, desde a implementação da Terceira República em Angola e com a aprovação da Constituição da República de Angola em 2010, abriu-se uma nova página na matéria de respeito pelos direitos e garantias fundamentais, inspirando-se nos princípios constitucionais e outros instrumentos legais ratificados por Angola. Certo é que, passados 10 anos, continuamos a viver numa mera ilusão deótica em matéria de promoção e realização dos direitos dos cidadãos. A eleição do presidente João Lourenço gerou uma grande esperança para os angolanos, pela intenção
The English
de ruptura...
interpreter, we barely hear you. Can you speak over? The English interpreter, we barely hear
understand.
you. Your voice is very distant. It's better now, please. Please proceed, Mr. João.
Okay. No translate Portuguese. Hello?
Please, can you proceed? We can hear you. Proceed, please.
Okay. Okay. Continue.
Mr. João, please proceed.
Ok. Senhor Presidente, Angola conheceu no dia 23 de março de 2020 todos caracterizados como casos importantes. O Executivo viu-se obrigado a implementar um conjunto de medidas com vista a combater a pandemia da Covid-19. No dia 27 de março, o Presidente da República, depois de ouvir a Assembleia Nacional, decretou o estado de emergência, que foi renovado 4 vezes, sucedido pelo estado de calamidade que persiste até ao momento. Durante esses períodos, fomos assistindo uma intenção clara do Executivo de anulação do Estado de Direito Democrático, com o agravamento da situação dos direitos econômicos, sociais e políticos, devido às medidas de restrições adotadas pelo governo angolano, que agravaram a já precária realidade dos angolanos em luta pela sua sobrevivência. A UMUNGA registrou nesta época 3.289 casos de violação de direitos humanos a nível nacional, dos quais 884 foram intimidações a cidadãos pelas forças de defesa e segurança, 2.366 detenções de cidadãos por não uso da máscara facial e violação da cerca sanitária, 10 assassinatos por crimes diversos e 30 assassinatos com envolvimento das forças da ordem e segurança, manifestações reprimidas em diferentes províncias, com realce para Rwanda, onde mortos foram registrados devido a excesso de repressão policial, bem como detenção de manifestantes por parte da polícia, levados posteriormente a julgamento sumário. Na maioria dos assassinatos perpetrados pela polícia angolana, neste período, as vítimas são jovens, na flor da idade, incluindo crianças. Senhor Presidente, a repressão já havia aumentado antes de ter sido decretado o estado de emergência, embora num nível inferior quando o ex-presidente José Eduardo dos Santos estava no poder. Não houve uma mudança de paradigma ou de modus operandi na forma como a polícia lidar com a população e os protestos, mas a Covid-19 ofereceu um novo pretexto. A violência e as detenções arbitrárias levadas a cabo pelas forças de segurança tem sido uma característica comum da abordagem agressiva do governo angolano para evitar a propagação do coronavírus. A Amnistia Internacional e a Umunga documentaram o assassinato de 7 jovens adolescentes pelas forças policiais entre março e julho. A maioria das vítimas foi visada por alegadas infrações menores a restrições da Covid-19, como não usar a máscara ou não usá-la corretamente, ou simplesmente andar na rua. Membros da Umunga e outros ativistas registraram muitos mais casos de tiroteios, espancamentos, intimidação e extorsão de cidadãos pelas forças de segurança no contexto de alegadas infrações das restrições de emergência da Covid-19. A grande preocupação, Sr. Presidente, consiste no facto de que, diante destes crimes públicos cometidos por agentes da polícia, não existir até o momento um processo sério de investigação que responsabilize os agentes perpetradores e os respectivos chefes. Ao contrário, temos assistido discursos oficiais de total protecionismo aos prevaricadores. Senhor Presidente, para terminar, encorajamos a Comissão Africana dos Direitos Humanos e dos Povos a apelar ao respeito da Carta Africana dos Direitos Humanos pelo Estado angolano, ao respeito à Constituição da República de Angola e exaltar o Estado angolano no sentido de instaurar um processo de investigação para apurar as causas das mortes e culpabilizar os seus responsáveis. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joa, for that presentation, in respect of which you have highlighted some of the human rights issues, particularly in relation to the enforcement of COVID-19 regulations in Angola, and the impact, the negative consequences of the enforcement of these measures on people, including in particular the reports of abuse and harassment that you made reference to in your presentation, particularly against people for lack of use of masks. We also take note and express our concern in relation to these reports of summary execution and excessive use of force in the context of protests that have led to, according to your report, the death of 30 people. And we do hope that the representatives of Angola here with us are following this report and would indeed ensure that investigations, independent and partial investigations, are conducted into these reports of alleged excessive use of force and summary execution, in order to ensure that those perpetrators are held accountable, and those affected by these acts are also provided with redress. Thank you for your presentation again. I think this brings us to the end of the first part of our session on the second day of the 67th ordinary session. It is almost on top of the hour for us before proceeding to the next agenda, which is agenda item 3, relating to panels and launches. So after the 15 minutes health break, we will be back to consider the launch of Journal Comment number 6 on Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol. For now, I wish to express my thanks to all of you, colleagues, members of the Commission, and interpreters, as well as all of you delegates, particularly those who have joined us to provide us with their statements. Thank you so much for all your statements. We'll be back in 15 minutes, please, for the panel. Thank you. It is a health break for 15 minutes now. All right. Dear colleagues, members of the Commission and delegates, welcome back from the health break. As I announced earlier on, the next agenda item is agenda item 3 on panels and launch. During this particular session, we would be launching a work that the Commission has been working on for some time. This is the general comment number 6 relating to Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol. I am very pleased to welcome with us today Commissioner Kaitesi, the Special Rapporteur on the rights of women in Africa, and also, of course, Commissioner Lucia Swagbo, the former Special Rapporteur on the rights of women in Africa, who worked on this general comment number 6. It's very good to see you, Commissioner Swagbo, and to welcome you in this unique platform of conducting our sessions, from which you have been spared. It's also good to welcome the Sylvia Nagbesenu. I'm apologies for that. Executive Director of Initiative for Gender Equality and Development in Africa, based in Ghana. And we also have Patience Mpani from the Center for Human Rights joining us. I don't want to say much about this panel because we have a very distinguished speakers who can indeed be able to lead us through this launch of this important general comment number 6 relating to the Maputo Protocol. And it is a very important document and a legal instrument that articulates issues relating to equality. And I'm very privileged to welcome all of you here. I just wish to indicate to you that the first speaker would be the Honorable Commissioner Kaitesi, who would be making an opening remark. Commissioner Kaitesi, according to the program organized for this purpose with you, it gives you, I think, 5 minutes for the opening remark. Then we'll proceed to the 3 other speakers subsequently. Commissioner Kaitesi, without further ado, you have the floor, please, and welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, honorable commissioners. Good morning, everybody. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. Today marks an important day for the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, as it is going to officially launch its 6th general comment, a general comment on Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol, which is developed as a part of its mandate to promote and protect the human rights on the continent. The promotion and protection of the rights of women in Africa is one of the key focus areas of the Commission, as provided in Article 18.3 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And it's a recognition of the fact that the issue of women requires special attention which led to the creation of the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the Women's Rights. In collaboration with its stakeholders and partners, the Commission has, through the Special Rapporteur, made significant contributions to the lives of women in Africa for over 2 decades now, with a view to uplifting and empowering them. One of the Commission's major contributions is the development and adoption of the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the rights of women in 2003, which we call the Maputo Protocol, as it complements the Charter by providing an expansive protection to the rights of women with a specific focus on the African context. In addition, the Commission adopted the state reporting guidelines on the Maputo Protocol with a view to guide the states in their reporting obligations under the protocol. The Commission has, through the Special Rapporteur, also adopted several thematic resolutions, issued press statements touching on issues affecting the rights of women in Africa, developed specific guidelines, conducted studies to better protect the rights of women in Africa, as well as carried out or participated in many promotional activities on the rights of women. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, recognizing the historical, social, cultural practices and the imbalances between men and women in Africa, and the dearth of targeted policies and the legislation to effectively implement the letter and the spirit of the provisions of the Maputo Protocol, the Commission, using its interpretative mandate, resolved the unpack provisions of the Maputo Protocol where necessary, with a view to providing more guidance on the scope, as well as setting standards and the best practices for effective and purposeful implementation of these provisions. In that regard, the Commission adopted General Comment number 1 on Article 14(1)(d) and E on women's rights to self from protection and to be protected from HIV. This was the first general comment ever to be adopted by the African Commission. This was followed by general comment number 2 on Article 14(1)(a), B, C, and F, and Article 14(2)(a) and C on reproductive health rights. And here we are today, making another significant contribution to a better understanding and effective application of the Maputo Protocol by launching General Comment number 6 on Article 7(d) on the right of women to a fair distribution of matrimonial property at the time of separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage after years of hard work. Let us all make effective use of this important soft law instrument after it is launched, as it is a tool aimed at providing more clarity to women's property rights. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is important to state that in executing its mandate, the Special Rapporteur collaborates with its stakeholders and partners, and this was the case in the development of this general comment. The partner worked with include the Initiative for Gender Equality and Development in Africa, Global Initiative for Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Initiative for Strategic Litigation in Africa, and FIDA Kenya. They provided technical and financial support to process, and we cannot thank them enough. We will continue to collaborate as we proceed to the next stage of popularization of the general comment and the other soft law instruments adopted by the Commission to promote and protect the rights of women in Africa. The Commission also monitors the implementation of the African Charter and the Maputo Protocol through its constructive engagement with the state parties during promotion mission and during consideration of state reports, pursuant to Article 62 of the African Charter and Article 26 of the Maputo Protocol. However, some of the states that have ratified the Maputo Protocol have not been complying with the reporting obligations. We wish to urge these state parties to do so using the state reporting guidelines adopted for this purpose. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to this opportunity to also call on all stakeholders and partners to continue to lend their support the work of the Special Rapporteur. The Commission appreciates your collaboration and recognizes the important role that you play and in all aspects of its work. To the AU member states that have not yet ratified the Maputo Protocol to do so, and to those that have already done so, to adopt relevant laws and policies for its effective implementation so as to impact positively on the lives of women and girls on the continent. To civil society organizations to continue to monitor and evaluate the implementation of the commitment made by states party to the Maputo Protocol and the other key instruments essential for the advancement of women's rights, as well as engage and support advocacy efforts at the national, sub-regional, and the continental levels for the ratification and effective implementation of the Maputo Protocol. Finally, I call on all stakeholders to work together and with the Commission to make Africa a better place where human rights in general and women's rights in particular are respected, realized, and enjoyed to the fullest. I thank you for your kind attention. Merci, obrigado, shukran.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kaitesi, Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa, for your opening remarks. The next speaker is Honorable Commissioner Lucius Wagbo, the former Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Permit me to start by standing on the existing protocols. I bring you greetings from the Republic of Cameroon, and I'm very happy and honored to be part of this launch of the very important soft law instrument, General Comment number 6 on Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol today. As the past immediate Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa, I would like to reiterate the fact that promoting and protecting the rights of women and girls in Africa is one of the key focus areas of the work of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights for more than 2 decades now. The Commission, through the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa, has made significant strides in that regard, as highlighted by the opening statement of the current Special Rapporteur, including the development of the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa, commonly known as the Maputo Protocol. However, the Commission is also alive to the fact that women in Africa continue to grapple with many issues that impact negatively on their ability to fully enjoy their human rights, including those guaranteed in the Maputo Protocol. One of these issues is the woman's right to have access to, use, and control over land and other productive resources, which has affected their rights to equality and to an adequate standard of living. Due to these challenges, the Commission felt the urgent need to clarify various legal issues pertaining to women's property rights and equality in marriage, particularly in cases of separation, divorce, or annulment of a marriage, including clarity on the legal obligations of states with a view to establish a continent-wide standard based on human rights principles. Distinguished delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen, what did the Commission do in this respect? At its 24th extraordinary session held from the 30th July to 8th August 2018 in Banjul, the Gambia, the Commission adopted a resolution on the development of general comment on Article 7D of the Protocol to the African Charter on the Rights of Women in Africa. The resolution mandated the Special Rapporteur to elaborate a general comment on Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol, which would, among others, require state parties to enact appropriate legislation to ensure that women and men enjoy the same rights in case of separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage, and that women and men shall have the right to an equitable sharing of the joint property deriving from the marriage in such circumstances. The resolution also mandated the Special Rapporteur to collaborate with relevant stakeholders working on issues of land and property rights in executing the task at hand and to report to the Commission. The development process. Distinguished delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen, the Special Rapporteur collaborated with some of its civil society partners working in the field of women's rights to develop the general comment. The list has been given by the current Special Rapporteur, and I will not be coming back to that. But I would like to state here that IGET, one of the civil societies, coordinated the participation of all the civil society partners in the process. Each of these organizations brought in their knowledge, expertise, and experience in the conceptualization, research, and drafting of the general comment under the supervision and guidance of the Commission. The African Commission provided the technical guidance and orientation throughout the process. The drafts generated were also presented at the ordinary and extraordinary sessions of the Commission for their review and input. These were preceded by 2 major consultative workshops held in Kenya and Ghana. Further, there were public consultations with government institutions and civil society organizations, and among others. The draft received additional comments from the public, which were reviewed and incorporated where relevant. The updated drafts was subsequently presented to the Commission at its 65th ordinary session in November 2019 for consideration. Thereafter, the Special Rapporteur, working with the partners, revised the general comment as per the guidance of the Commission. The final revised draft was considered and adopted by the Commission at its 27th extraordinary session held from 19 February to 4th of March 2020 in Banjul, the Gambia. Distinguished delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen, the development of general comment number 6 went through a very rigorous process which lasted for 6 years with guidance initially under the then Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa, Honorable Commissioner Soyata Maiga, who also provided support to the process until the general comment was adopted, and we owe her a debt of appreciation for her sense of commitment and dedication towards this cause. The objective was to ensure that there is adequate, effective, and inclusive consultation with all the stakeholders. And today we are here to launch this important human rights instrument with a view to contribute to the promotion and protection of the rights of women. I'm happy and proud to have been part of this journey and to see it to its logical conclusion. As human rights stakeholders, I call on all of us to make effective use of these general comments and all other soft law instruments developed by the Commission to enhance the protection regime of women's rights in Africa. Let us make use of them in our research centers, in our universities, in our courts, in our advocacy programs and activities, as well as in developing our policies and national laws to protect the rights of women in Africa. I thank you all for listening. Merci beaucoup, obrigado. Shukra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Swagbo. Indeed, I think this is a work that has taken 6 years, with the effort also of my predecessor, former president of the Commission, Commissioner Maiga, succeeded by yourself and now Commissioner Kaitisi. We thank all of you very much for this important area of work of the Commission. May I now request Sylvia Nagbesenu to take the floor, please. I think I tried better now.
Yes, yes, very much. You did. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for this opportunity. And let me also kindly request that I stand, or permit me to stand on all existing protocols. Having said that, let me also bring you greetings from Ghana. And let me mention that I'm extremely happy and privileged to be part of this very important event. This has been a long-standing expectation, considering the work on the general comments began way in 2014. And all who were part of this journey can attest to the fact that this is a great achievement, and we thank the Commission and all who were involved in bringing us to this very successful end. Mr. Chairman, my role this morning is to introduce us all to the general comment. And I must mention that the general comment is a very comprehensive document. And specifically to do that, it would be very useful to get a sense of the specific article, Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol, which states that state parties are called upon to enact appropriate legislation to ensure that women and men enjoy the same rights in cases of separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage. It further states that in this regard, they shall ensure that in cases of separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage, women and men shall have the right to equitable sharing of the joint property deriving from marriage. And this is the crux of the general comment number 6. For those of you who have not seen or read the general comment yet, the structure of the general comment has different components. I must say it actually divided into 5 parts. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Part 1 of the general comments, by way of introduction, speaks to provide an introductory process about the general comment. It recognizes that there are several protections guaranteed under the African Charter as well as the Maputo Protocol. It specifically speaks to issues related to the enjoyment and equality of rights of all persons, women and men, under Article 2 and 3. It talks about issues that relate to the guaranteeing of elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Again, under Article 3, it establishes that state parties shall combat all forms of discriminations against women through appropriate legislation, institutional, and other measures. Again, it recognizes Article 6 and 7 that talks about women and men enjoying equal rights in marriage as equal partners. Having said that, it moves on, and I mean the general comment, to establish that despite these protections, there are existing inequalities, both in law and practice, especially on issues affecting that distribution of property rights or property in marriages in Africa. And this again is the crux or the basis for which the general comment on Article 7D was developed. As a result of the systematic discrimination and inequalities that still prevail against women, especially, and the patriarchal issues, discriminatory laws, customary practices and norms, the different marriages and property rights regimes that exist on our continent, amongst others, including customary law, the ordinance marriages, also issues related to marriages under Islamic law, as well as situations where couples who cohabit for years and hold themselves out as husband and wife have no protection in most cases when there are situations of divorce, separation, or annulment of marriage in this regard. But it's important, Mr. Chairman, to mention here that the Maputo Protocol in itself does not clearly define equitable sharing of joint property. Therefore, this is left to different interpretations and at the discretion of the interpreters of the law in different jurisdictions. For this reason, the general comment speaks to specific objective and also recognizes that there's a need to clarify various legal issues pertaining to property rights, equality in marriage, particularly in cases of separation, divorce, and annulment of marriage, especially for women. Another object of the general comment provides guidance to state parties, among others, on the interpretation of the rights of women during separation, divorce, and annulment of marriage, and also speaks specifically to how ascertainment that exists between men and women who have the equal rights to fair share of the joint property that is acquired from marriage. Finally, the object is to seek to justify that women's efforts, especially those surrounding homemaking, caregiving, should be recognized on the same level as that of the male counterpart in contributing to the household, even though they may not necessarily, in most instances, have monetary contributions. Part 3, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, focuses on definitions of relevant terms within the general comment. And part 4 speaks specifically to the normative framework surrounding the issues of the general comment, specifically the right to equality, the right to non-discrimination, the right to property, and the right to equality in marriage. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, specifically part 4 speaks to the content on equitable sharing of the joint property deriving from marriage. And in this regard, it defines that under the general comment, providing that states shall interpret the notion of equitable sharing as equal sharing of maritable property in a manner fully consistent with the notion of substantive equality between men and women. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, it specifically and very importantly advances the following: that Article 7D shall not be read in isolation, but in conjunction with its other articles around it. It enjoins state parties to ensure that men and women enjoy the same rights in cases of separation, divorce, and annulment of marriage, and further clarifies that the notion of equitable sharing should be seen through the lens of substantive equality. In this regard, as we all know it, substantive equality approach requires states to recognize and ensure the provision of entitlement and protection to disadvantaged members of society, additional to the entitlements and protections available to all on an equal basis. It's important to note here that such additional entitlements and protection that substantive equality requires are meant to rectify the conditions that impede equal enjoyment of rights and enable disadvantaged members of society, especially women in our case or in the case of this general comment, to enjoy the rights fully on an equal basis with others. Particularly the contribution, as I mentioned earlier, of women as part of homemaking and caregiving to be recognized. Part 5, which is the last part of the general comments, focuses on states' obligations of the general comment and requires relevant state institutions in different sectors to ensure that domestic legal frameworks are harmonized and reformed, discriminatory laws favorable to women's equal rights to marital property are also considered. It actually focuses on states that states should enact and implement clear, accessible, enforceable, and justiciable legislation in order to ensure effective enjoyment of women's rights, which is consistent with the Maputo Protocol. It states that states should recognize the value of indirect and non-financial contributions to marriages to the acquisition of the same interest in marital property and provide access to justice and remedies. It also indicates that states and civil society organizations and others to increase awareness and conduct trainings across the issue on the equal property rights for women and men upon divorce, separation, and annulment of marriage. And finally, it requires states parties to comply with the submission of initial and periodic reports to the African Commission. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, let me mention that it's important that this event is taking place today, and we are extremely excited about it, that we can move forward in terms of the implementation processes regarding the general comment. Allow us at this point to express appreciation to the Commission, specifically to all commissioners for their contributions during the process of drafting and presenting the general comments to the Commission over the years. A special thanks go to Honorable Commissioner Maiga, as has been mentioned already, who we started this process with, and also Honorable Commissioner Asogbo, who took over from Commissioner Maiga at the time as the then Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women, who also provided guidance and direction throughout this journey. And we are very grateful for the efforts and support, their dedication and their commitments throughout their process. We cannot complete our appreciation without extending our sincere thanks to Honorable Commissioners Deso and also Honorable Commissioner Mute for their invaluable specific inputs to this process, and the legal officers who supported us along the way as we work together on this general comment. To all stakeholders and partners who were involved in this process, be it through the drafting, the sharing of ideas, in knowledge, experiences, resources to enrich this process, as well as those who were part of the stakeholder engagement and the consultative processes, we say Aiko, as we say in Ghana. Thank you. But also more importantly, and specifically to the Global Initiative of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, Dr. Myra Gomez, who is in our midst, who actually led this process also from the beginning along the way, and also to the Initiative for Strategic Litigation in Africa, Sibongile Indashe, to the Kenya Human Rights Commission, Dinah Katiengo, as well as Faith Alube, who were part of these processes, to FIDA Kenya, and also to the Center on Human Rights and at the University of Pretoria, Patience Mpani, who was also part of this process, among others. It was a teamwork, and we are happy that we could get it through to this end. Finally, although the general comment has been adopted, the work has just begun. And we look forward to working with the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa, Honorable Commissioner Kaitesi, and her team to popularize the general comment, among others, in regard to the support for the implementation of the Maputo Protocol. I thank you all for your attention, and God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia Nagbesenu, for that presentation of the contents of the general comment number 6, which I think marks a very important step as far as jurisprudence is concerned, particularly in respect of elucidating and enunciating the content of equitable sharing in the context of separation, annulment, and divorce conditions. This important jurisprudential development is critical. And as you rightly said, I think the challenge has just begun. Okay, the work is what happens next. And indeed, you are absolutely right. This is what Commissioner Kaitesi would be leading us through in terms of ensuring that this jurisprudential development is actually institutionalized nationally. And therefore, the campaign and work for legal reform and for awareness creation with the courts and the judiciary and indeed parliaments and lawmakers would be critical to take this forward. Thank you again. May I now request Patience Pani to take the floor. In the light of the fact that we are running out of time, may I request Patience to help us to save some time as well? Patience, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the African Commission, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols respectfully observed. The Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria is honored to take part in this panel discussion to launch General Comment number 6 on Article 7D of the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa. This general comment is a major milestone in ensuring that women are not discriminated with regards to access to matrimonial property in situations of separation, divorce, and annulment of marriages. The general comment is consistent with Article 23 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights that places a responsibility on states to take appropriate steps to ensure equality of rights and responsibilities of spouses during marriage and at its dissolution. And also Article 16C and H of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which also calls on states to ensure that same rights for both spouses in respect of ownership, acquisition, management, and administration, as well as enjoyment and disposition of property. More importantly, this general comment articulates or elaborates on Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol that in cases of separation or divorce, men and women shall have the right to equitable sharing of the joint property deriving from the marriage. As such, civil society organizations welcome General Comment number 6 because women in Africa have largely been discriminated on and disenfranchised of their property, of their right to property on separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage. This is especially true considering that marriages in Africa are governed by various marriage regimes that include civil, customary, and religious marriages, all of which have various implications for women's rights to equitable distribution of the marital estate upon divorce. To a large extent, women have greatly been disadvantaged when they have sought to end their marriages. Today, we join civil society across the African continent in celebrating the adoption of General Comment number 6 by the African Commission. And it is important for me to acknowledge the contribution of the former Special Rapporteurs on the Rights of Women, Commissioner Maiga and Commissioner Lucia Aswago, who led the process of developing the General Comment, as well as the contribution of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, as well as civil society organizations that worked tirelessly over almost 6 years, providing technical support to the development of the General Comment. I will not name the organizations because they've already been highlighted. But as highlighted by the speakers before me, General Comments are soft law instruments that are used for authoritative interpretations of individual human rights standards or of the legal nature of human rights obligations. They clarify the contents of the rights that are set up in treaties. Sometimes they also outline potential violations of these rights. They provide orientation for practical implementation of the human rights and also set a criteria for evaluating the progress of states in their implementation of these rights. With the adoption of General Comment number 6, as civil society, we must complement the efforts of the African Commission to raise awareness of state parties, policymakers, the judiciary, other civil society organizations, and citizens on the contents of the General Comment. We have to adapt it in various formats and languages to ensure that it is accessible to everyone. Without the widespread knowledge and use of this General Comment, we run the risk of life going on as usual, with women continuing to suffer violations of their rights to matrimonial property due to ignorance of their rights and the avenues that are available for their redress. As civil society, we must also exercise our monitoring role to ensure that state parties to the Maputo Protocol are effectively implementing Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol in ways that are consistent with the recommendations of General Comment number 6. Civil society should consider auditing laws at national level to ensure that the domestic legal framework is consistent with Article 7D and as articulated by General Comment number 6. Where this is not the case, we must call for the review of these laws. In addition, without a conducive environment and a responsive judicial system, access to justice will not be achieved for women whose rights to marital property is undermined. Civil society working with the judiciary should consider training of the judicial officers on property rights as provided for by the Maputo Protocol and its General Comment. In addition, providing legal aid and guidance for women seeking redress where rights to property at separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage have been infringed on, to ensure that women are able to claim their rights and access justice. Lastly, state parties to the Maputo Protocol have an obligation under Article 26.2 of the Maputo Protocol to report to the African Commission on how they've implemented the rights of women. Civil society must participate in the state reporting process as provided for by the African Commission guidelines on state reporting to ensure an interrogation of the actions of the state in implementing Article 7D and other rights in the protocol. Additionally, civil society organizations can also develop shadow reports to the African Commission as provided for by the African Commission Rules of Procedure. In the shadow reports, civil society can bring attention to the African Commission any challenges undermining the realization of the right to property for women in situations of separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage. In conclusion, I once again want to hail the African Commission for adopting General Comment number 6, as it is useful in changing the circumstances of women who find themselves in situations of separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage. And I look forward to the continued collaboration between the African Commission, state parties to the Maputo Protocol, and civil society organizations to ensure that the rights of women on the continent are upheld. I thank you.
Thank you, Patience, for your presentation. Given that we don't have much time, I will quickly proceed to open the floor for questions, comments, and observations. Yes, Commissioner King.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I want to take this opportunity at this time to actually commend and congratulate all the special rapporteurs, current and past, particularly my dear sister and friend, Commissioner Lucy Aswagbo. I know that a lot of work did go into this document, and I do hope that it will be popularized, that state parties will find it useful, judiciaries and parliament will find it useful, and we would see it as a document that we would continue to use to breathe more life to the Maputo Protocol and help towards the full realization of marital rights in terms of when the marriage comes to an end through separation, divorce, or annulment of marriage. Thank you very much. This is one gain to women's rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner King. Commissioner Manuela.
Muito obrigada, senhora presidente. Boa tarde para mim e a todos os intervenientes. Não sei se me estão a ouvir devido à interpretação. Está tudo bem? Mudança de canais para poderem ouvir o português.
Yes, Commissioner Hartam, you also indicated that.
Então, devo agradecer a todas as intervenientes. Felizmente, todas as intervenientes. Uma discriminação positiva, porque o assunto é mulher. Devo, em especial, felicitar a comissária Lucy, que trabalhou arduamente neste documento, a comissária Caetesi, que está a terminar o documento, aliás, que está a apresentar o documento. Como bem expressaram todas as intervenientes, o cerne deste comentário é a partilha de bens em caso de separação ou divórcio ou anulação de casamento. Apenas vou referenciar aqui uma faixa da mulher que se encontra internada nas cadeias ou que acabaram de cumprir alguma pena longa de prisão. Aquela mulher que por qualquer razão menos boa tenha ido parar a uma cadeia, a sua vida pós-prisão é muito difícil. Difícil porque, dependendo do tempo que ali permanecer, do lado externo da cadeia, muitas coisas se alteram. E a vida dela também é incluída nessas alterações. Normalmente, e quando a pena é longa, o marido ou o companheiro organiza a sua vida paralela. E a separação é quase automática. Não é uma generalidade, mas normalmente é isto que acontece. Ora, quando essa separação é quase automática, a partilha torna-se uma miragem. Porque essa mulher não será tida nem achada nos bens em que trabalhou durante todo o tempo que esteve a viver. E o efeito estigmatizante da pena de prisão vai refletir-se na vida dessa mulher e, consequentemente, nos seus direitos, se é que em algum momento teve alguns. Porque nós sabemos que a maior parte da mulher africana, principalmente a mulher rural, que é a maior parte da mulher africana, quase não tem direitos nenhuns, razão pela qual foi necessário um protocolo de Maputo para chamar a atenção para esse aspecto. Por outro lado, também os códigos civis ou de família dos Estados-parte africanos devem salvaguardar essa proteção, principalmente nas questões relacionadas com o direito fundiário, porque, na verdade, ela é muito questionada nas nossas organizações tradicionais, porque a mulher não herda. A mulher depende do pai, depois depende do marido, e no fim, quando o marido morre, ela é atirada para a rua da tristeza, como feiticeira ou outra coisa qualquer. É preciso que os códigos reflitam essa proteção da mulher. E também é uma discriminação positiva que deve ser salvaguardada. E será esta a nossa luta, porque daqui para frente a divulgação deste comentário, para que os Estados possam apropriar-se dela, é responsabilidade de todos nós. Mais uma vez, obrigada a todos os intervenientes e parabéns por este lançamento. Obrigada.
Thank you, Commissioner Manuela. Vice Chair.
Monsieur le Président, chers collègues, bonjour. Je voudrais à mon tour féliciter le commissaire Zainab Ossidi Kaitesi, le rapporteur spécial sur les droits des femmes. Souhaiter aussi un welcome back à la commissaire Lucie ACHPR, ancienne rapporteure spéciale sur les droits des femmes, pour les efforts qu'ils ont déployés depuis des années afin de aider l'Afrique un instrument supplémentaire de la soft law. Je cite notre sur l'article 7 du protocole de Maputo. Le protocole, cette observation générale ne change pas le principe que le protocole avait déjà fixé. Il l'explique davantage, il le rend beaucoup plus clair, beaucoup plus compréhensible par les États, et par les ONG, disons par l'Afrique entière et par les INDH aussi. Donc le principe reste le même, le partage équitable des biens communs acquis durant le mariage, le partage équitable. On pèse bien les termes, mais c'est équitable et non égalitaire. Partage équitable. En cas de séparation de corps, en cas de divorce ou en cas d'annulation de mariage. C'est ici le mérite de ce texte qui vient ainsi stopper l'hégémonie masculine dans ce domaine, surtout chez nous en Afrique, ou en application parfois de la coutume. En cas de séparation de corps, de divorce ou d'annulation de mariage, le mari ou sa famille s'accapare de tous les biens acquis par le couple. Mais ce que je voulais souligner beaucoup plus, et c'est ça le mot de la fin, c'est que on ne va pas oublier non plus que le mariage, ça reste un contrat civil, et que les époux en tant que tels, ils conservent leur autonomie de volonté. Leur autonomie de volonté. Ils peuvent bien postuler dans ce contrat un certain nombre de principes qui demeurent intacts, qui ne seront pas affectés par ce document, selon ce que j'ai pu comprendre après sa lecture. Ainsi, les époux, la femme compris, peuvent opter toujours pour la séparation des biens, même s'il y a séparation de corps. S'ils ont opté pour la séparation des biens, eh bien, il n'y aura pas ce partage équitable, parce que la femme aura aussi ses propres biens à elle, hein, s'ils ont opté pour la séparation de biens. Ou ils peuvent opter pour la communauté universelle, c'est alors que le problème pourrait se poser. S'ils avaient opté pour la communauté universelle de biens, en cas de séparation de corps, de divorce ou d'annulation de mariage, il y a lieu alors en ce moment-là de penser à l'article 7D sur le partage équitable de ces biens-là. Et les époux peuvent aussi opter, la femme compris, pour la communauté réduite aux acquis, comme on dit. S'ils ont opté pour ce régime-là, la communauté des biens réduite aux acquis, c'est-à-dire chaque époux garde ses biens qu'il avait avant, et que pendant le mariage, peut-être, ils ont acquis des biens communs, en ce moment-là, elle peut bien se voir aidée par l'interprétation que les États peuvent faire de l'observation générale numéro 6 pour qu'il y ait un partage équitable. Alors, la question que je voulais poser, parce qu'il faut quand même qu'on pose une question après avoir compris le texte tel qu'il est, est-ce que les deux rapporteurs spéciaux qui sont avec nous, qui participent à cette table ronde, ne peuvent pas un peu nous expliquer pourquoi le père fondateur de la charte ont plutôt opté pour l'adjectif équitable, plutôt qu'un partage égalitaire de biens. Parce que ce qui est équitable n'est pas forcément ce qui est égalitaire. Est-ce que c'était bien que l'on dise partage équitable de biens au lieu de partage égalitaire de biens? Voilà la question que je voudrais poser. N'importe qui des deux rapporteurs qui peut prendre la question pourrait répondre. Voilà, Monsieur le Président, ma petite contribution pour cet important texte pour lequel je félicite les deux commissaires encore, Kaitesi et la commissaire Aswabor. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. I think a very important concept that you have used is the hegemony of the husband or the man. in marriage. Basically, that's exactly, I think, that is the core of the issue as far as equitable share is concerned. Any other contribution, colleagues? I don't see. Okay, Commissioner Hatton, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, pour la parole. Comme c'est la première fois que je m'adresse à cette auguste assemblée, je salue tous mes collègues et mes anciens collègues présents, commissaires, représentants des États, des ONG, des NDH et tous les amis et amis du secrétariat. Alors, c'est un sujet très important que celui des droits de la femme. Je remercie les deux commissaires, Azwadbor et Kaitesi, pour le travail qui a été fait. Et elles le savent mieux que moi que l'application des droits rencontre toujours donc des résistances de la part de la société et surtout de la tradition. Donc, j'ai deux questions ou deux appréhensions. La première, c'est une proposition, c'est comme pour tous les droits que chaque essaye de promouvoir et de préserver, je recommande lors des missions de promotion, si la pandémie nous laisse reprendre nos missions de promotion, donc d'inclure la vulgarisation de ce texte important donc, auprès des magistrats, auprès des autorités civiles, mais surtout auprès des autorités traditionnelles, pour donc expliquer le contenu. Deuxièmement, je reprends la dernière question du vice-président concernant l'égalité et l'équité. Est-ce que c'est un partage égalitaire? Ce débat perdure toujours dans les pays africains qui ont une tradition de droit musulman, surtout pour l'héritage. Donc, et les défenseurs donc, de l'application du droit musulman se basent toujours sur l'équité pour dire que c'est un partage équitable et que l'égalité n'est pas l'équité. Donc, je voulais le signaler, mais je tiens surtout à la promotion pour faire, donc, parce que les résistances sociales, même dans des pays où les textes sont très forts, les résistances sociales parfois demeurent plus fortes que le texte et surtout dans les milieux ruraux. Voilà la remarque que je voulais apporter à ce riche débat. Je remercie encore une fois mes deux collègues qui auront la parole.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hatton, for those two observations. Again, one speaking to the crucial concept of equitable distribution. I don't know if there is the other one relating to, of course, the social resistance relating to that, and indeed the need for taking advantage of promotion mission of the Commission in promoting and advancing the implementation of the general comments at a national level. I don't see any other input or request for the floor, neither from colleagues, members of the Commission, or from colleagues and friends participating in this session. I don't see any comment on the chat box either on this. If that is the case, may I go back to the panelists? I wish to give the floor first to Commissioner Kaitesi. If you wish to take the floor and address observations made and questions raised, Commissioner Kaitesi, you have the floor, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Bien que je n'ai pas bien saisi les observations, les questions, j'attends mal. Mais je vais essayer pour le peu que j'ai entendu. Il y a le vice-président et le commissaire à thème qui sont venus sur la question de l'égalité, du principe d'égalité, du principe d'équitabilité. Le vice-président aimerait savoir pourquoi les fondateurs ont voulu un partage équitable au lieu d'un partage égalitaire. Bon, vous savez, le principe d'équité, c'est un principe universel. Dans toute une vie, dans toute notre vie. Et en matière de justice, on aimerait que les personnes soient traitées de manière équitable. Mais en ce qui concerne le droit des femmes et puis le principe du genre, on a adopté le principe d'égalité parce qu'il y avait les inégalités dans le traitement des femmes et des hommes. C'est pour cela qu'à travers ces instruments, le protocole de Maputo, on a opté pour le principe de l'égalité. C'est en fait suite aux inégalités qu'on avait constatées dans tous les stades de la vie, en opportunité, en traitement, et on voulait adresser tous ces problèmes, toutes ces inégalités. Donc, moi, je pense que c'était judicieux de ne pas utiliser le principe de l'équité, mais plutôt de prendre le principe, de considérer le principe de l'égalité. Voilà tout ce que je peux dire sur la différence entre le principe d'équité et le principe d'égalité que nous utilisons dans le domaine du genre, de l'égalité entre l'homme et la femme. Voilà. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaitesi, for providing that analysis on the question regarding equitable, the concept of equitable distribution. Commissioner Swagbo.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. In fact, this has been a question which had been of serious concern to me. Immediately, we had to adopt these general comments. On reading Article 7, I noted that the basic principle which is set in the heading of that chapter is one of sameness of rights. Sameness of rights in case of separation, divorce, and annulment of marriage. And now my question was, what happened somewhere along the line that in 7D, rather than continuing this notion of sameness, the legislator decided to talk about equity, which is not the same as sameness. Equity is not the same as sameness. So I started my research, and I thought I could find the travaux préparatoires which guided the preparation of this text in order to see what must have motivated the sudden change from sameness to equity. Unfortunately, I could not lay hands on them, but talking to people who were present during the discussions that led to the final adoption of this protocol, it turned out that if they had to insist on sameness, which is equality, the voices of the Arab world would not have allowed this protocol to go through. And so the compromise was to accept the use of the word equitable. But I still feel that when does equity intervene? Equity intervenes when applying the law will render injustice. That's when equity intervenes. So that is why at the end of the day, in interpreting this provision in the general comment, we thought if the law were to be applied, a woman who does not contribute in monetary terms will be deprived of a share in the property. Whereas in terms of substantial equity, that is the lens of substantial equity, you'll be able to say this woman, though she has not contributed financially, she has contributed in kind, and this amount of contribution should be taken into account. In fact, Lord Denning, in his time, developed the concept of the equity of the married woman, to the extent that whether a married woman goes to work or not, the fact that she's able to do the household chores gave her rights over the matrimonial property. So I think that's the only explanation I can give. They had to make this compromise in order that this text should pass in satisfaction of the Arab world. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Swakpo. Indeed, I think in terms of the preparatory process, I think I remember also Commissioner Maya during the course of our deliberation on this general comment, since she was also there, providing us insights into the discussions that transpired at the time as well. So we indeed need to also have that background, although within the context, of course, this general comment, quite considerable advance has been made in clarifying the content of this concept as far as the protection it affords for women is concerned, but also the obligation that it imposes on states is concerned. May I now pass on to request Sylvia Nagbesenu, if you are with us still. I don't know if Sylvia is with us. It doesn't look like that she's with us. Okay. Patience.
Thank you, Commissioner Deso. I think the Special Rapporteur and former Special Rapporteur have adequately addressed the issue of equity versus equitable distribution of joint property.
Okay, thank you very much, Patience. So, colleagues, this brings us to the end of the discussion on the general comment. It is now time to Commissioner Kaifesi to pronounce the launch of the general comment. So do you have a copy of the general comment with you? Okay, there you go.
Those from South Africa have, and those from Banjul.
Okay, great.
I see Aswabo has it. Me no. Okay, but they can raise.
I printed mine.
And we are happy to raise this book and to launch this general comment in number 6.
Okay, excellent. All right, the hard work has just begun. The hard work for implementation, for advocacy, and indeed for legal reform and judicial development of jurisprudence on this extremely important subject. We very much would like to thank the work that has gone into developing this general comment by all the 3 special rapporteurs, Commissioner Maega, Commissioner Swagbo, Commissioner Kaitesi. Indeed, the support that has been given by the technical group, including Institute for Gender Equality and Development, as well as the Center for Human Rights. We very much appreciate the collaboration that has made this possible for us to launch. And as Commissioner Hatem indicated, the next phase would, of course, include not only the leadership of Commissioner Kaitesi as a special rapporteur, but also the Commission in terms of the promotion mission of the Commission to take this with it in undertaking promotion missions. Thank you so much, colleagues, for that. This brings us to the end of it. Now we move back to agenda item number 4 on the state of human rights. And in that respect, I wish to request if any of the national human rights institutions that have registered for purpose of taking the floor are with us. Do we have any national human rights institution? Okay, in that case, let me check if we have then colleagues, representatives of NGOs. Do we have Environment, Resource Naturale et Development, Innocent Bisimwa? This is the NGO with observer status number 498. Okay, we have. Excellent. May I request that as you take the floor, you put on the mic and the video as well. Kindly note that you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Dofe, Chamari, uko na suivre? Est-ce que unaona keule ko sana ile maperturbation iliingia kwako nako? Yanalomba se mtu active video.
Okay, if you could put on your video as well. Okay, there you go. You have the floor, please. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Dofe?
Mr. Bisimwa, can you proceed, please?
Oui. Honorable Monsieur le Président, honorable commissaire de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, distingués invités, représentants des États en vos rangs et qualités respectifs, représentants des organisations internationales et non gouvernementales. En ce moment où l'humanité est bouleversée par la pandémie à coronavirus, qui laisse derrière elle des conséquences incalculables sur les plans sanitaires, social, économique, Nous profitons de cette occasion, nous offerte par la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, en vue de présenter la situation des droits des peuples autochtones pygmées de la République démocratique du Congo en général et celle des victimes de l'expulsion du parc national de Kahuzi-Biega en particulier. La RDC est l'un des pays les plus importants d'Afrique du point de vue de la diversité biologique et regorge à son sein un éventail de forêts pleines de ressources ainsi qu'un vaste réseau d'aires protégées constitué de 7 parcs nationaux couvrant actuellement plus de 11% du territoire national et 65 domaines et réserves apparentés. La survie de la grande majorité des communautés locales et autochtones pygmées dépend des ressources forestières qui se trouvent dans cet éventail de forêts et d'aires protégées, dont notamment les plantes médicinales ainsi que d'autres produits forestiers non lignés. Fort malheureusement, les politiques de conservation de la nature, d'exploitation forestière et de gestion des terres coutumières en RDC tiennent rarement compte des droits des communautés autochtones pygmées, particulièrement de leur droit d'accès à la terre et ressources naturelles, ainsi qu'à la consultation en vue d'une indemnisation juste et équitable lorsque les ressources sont aliénées. Longtemps victimes des politiques de discrimination, de la dépossession et de l'expropriation, souvent pour cause d'utilité publique de leurs terres et espaces de vie, les pygmées de la RDC estimés à 60 000 à 600 000 individus ont vu leur développement compromis avec un accès difficile aux services sociaux de base tels la santé, l'éducation et l'emploi. Dans les démarches tendant à la protection des droits des autochtones pygmées, un projet de loi portant principes fondamentaux relatifs à la promotion et à la protection des droits des peuples vulnérables et pygmées a été déposé pour adoption à l'Assemblée nationale et actuellement a franchi l'étape d'analyse à la Commission avant d'être traité en plénière et envoyé au chef de l'État pour sa promulgation. Dans la province du Sud-Kivu, à l'est de la RDC, plus de 20 000 pygmées victimes de l'expulsion du parc national de Kahuzi-Biega vivent dans la précarité sur les terres appartenant aux communautés d'accueil, en dépit des efforts qui ne cessent de conjuguer pour recouvrer leurs droits devant les instances judiciaires et administratives. À la quête de la justice, ils ont saisi les juridictions congolaises depuis 2008, mais sans succès, et aujourd'hui n'espèrent qu'à une décision de la Commission qui viendra rappeler la RDC ses obligations découlant de la Charte africaine et d'autres instruments juridiques relatifs aux droits de l'homme. Le retour en septembre 2018 par certaines de cette communauté dans le parc national de Kahuzi-Biega a été à la base de violences entre pygmées et gestionnaires du parc national conduisant aux violations des droits de l'homme, dont les arrestations et détentions illégales, les assassinats, les meurtres, les coups et blessures et les destructions méchantes. Le 4 février 2020, 8 membres de la communauté autochtone pygmée, dont des femmes parmi les expulsés, ont été condamnés par la justice militaire pour notamment destruction du parc à l'issue d'un procès expéditif qui n'a pas respecté les garanties d'un procès juste et équitable. Ces derniers ont fait appel contre cette décision devant la Cour militaire du Sud-Kivu, qui a accordé la liberté provisoire à 3 d'entre eux, attendant l'issue de la procédure. Mais comptant de cette liberté provisoire qui n'est qu'un droit reconnu par la loi congolaise à tout Congolais, quelle que soit son appartenance, certains agents du parc national menaceraient les chefs pygmées Kasula du village de Muyangi dans le territoire de Kabar, qui à son tour les accuse d'orchestrer des divisions et des conflits au sein des pygmées en promettant de l'emploi, des biens en vue de solidariser des actions tendant au recouvrement de leurs droits. À ce sujet, nous craignons la recrudescence de la violence si rien n'est fait. En date du 3 novembre 2020, dans le parc national de Kahuzi-Biega, non loin de Katasoma dans le territoire de Calais, des autochtones pygmées, dont Amani et Bahati, ont été assassinés dans les circonstances non élucidées à ce jour et dont nous exigeons des enquêtes sérieuses et indépendantes en vue de déterminer les causes et identifier les auteurs en vue de les sanctionner conformément à la loi. Certaines organisations locales et internationales accompagnant les autochtones pygmées dans la revendication de leurs droits sur les terres du PNKB expropriées sont menacées, ainsi que leurs animateurs. C'est le cas de RND Institute, de KMV, de FPP. Ces organisations ont fait l'objet de menaces, de retraits d'agrément, de convocations par des services de sécurité, sous des fallacieux prétextes d'instrumentalisation des populations pygmées, dont la seule reproche et la revendication de leurs droits à la terre et aux ressources en vue de leur survie. Eu égard à cette situation qui devient préoccupante et qui nécessite l'attention de la Commission comme mécanisme africain de protection et promotion des droits de l'homme, RND recommande que la Commission africaine s'implique à travers sa décision susceptible de reconnaître et de garantir les droits à la terre et aux ressources des autochtones pygmées victimes de l'expulsion du parc national de Kahuzi-Biega en vue de promouvoir la paix sociale. Que la Commission recommande au gouvernement congolais d'assurer la protection aux défenseurs des droits des populations autochtones ainsi que la sécurité aux organisations qu'ils animent. Que la Commission rappelle à la RDC ses obligations découlant de la Charte africaine relative aux droits des peuples autochtones et aux défenseurs des droits de l'homme. Que la Commission s'imprègne davantage de la situation des pygmées de la RDC et s'est expulsés du parc national de Kahuzi-Biega. La Commission réalise une mission de visite, de recherche et d'information dans la zone du parc national de Kahuzi-Biega en République démocratique du Congo, à travers les groupes de travail sur les populations autochtones en Afrique, en vue de contribuer à une prise de conscience sur la situation. Que la Commission rappelle à la RDC ses obligations de garantir un accès à la justice en vue d'une réparation juste aux victimes de violations des droits, à l'occurrence les pygmées expulsés du parc national de Kahuzi-Biega. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bisimwa, for your statement, speaking specifically to the plight of indigenous communities in the DRC, particularly the Pygmies, highlighting issues relating to expropriation of land, expulsion of communities from national parks, and also the issues of lack of access to services affecting in particular, again, the Pygmies, and of course, the issue of access to justice that you have highlighted. And we join you indeed in calling for the adoption of the law for the protection of the interests and rights of indigenous communities in the DRC, which can go some distance in addressing some of these issues. Thank you for your statement once again. The next on the list is IHRDA. If we have from IHRDA, Eric Bizimana. IHRDA is the NGO with observer status 231. Do we have IHRDA? Etwell. We have? Okay, great. Kindly proceed, Eric. You have 5 minutes, please.
Merci. Merci, honorable président. Honorable président, honorable commissaire, depuis environ 4 ans, des individus, des organisations et institutions appellent la Commission et l'Union africaine dans son ensemble à se pencher sur les violations graves et massives des droits de l'homme perpétrées par les forces gouvernementales et les groupes séparatistes dans le contexte du conflit en cours dans les régions anglophones du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest du Cameroun. Selon le Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, une ONG basée au Cameroun, il existe des motifs raisonnables de croire que des crimes contre l'humanité sont commis depuis le début de ce conflit en octobre 2016. Plus de 200 villages ont été partiellement ou complètement détruits, ce qui a provoqué la fuite de milliers de personnes. Des centaines de milliers de personnes ont été déplacées, tandis qu'environ 30 à 35 000 personnes ont demandé l'asile dans les pays voisins, notamment le Nigeria. Des milliers de personnes ont été tuées avec des destructions de biens non quantifiables. Bien que récemment, de nombreuses personnes déplacées soient en train de retourner dans leur communauté, suite à la calmie qui s'installe dans certaines parties des régions affectées, environ 1,5 million de personnes ont encore besoin d'une aide humanitaire. Tout en reconnaissant les efforts déployés par le gouvernement du Cameroun et ses partenaires pour résoudre le conflit et garantir la protection des personnes et des biens, les récents développements dans les dites régions anglophones démontrent que les violations continuent de s'aggraver. Nous restons très préoccupés par le fait que le gouvernement ne fait pas assez pour assurer la protection des personnes et des biens. Les incendies des villages continuent, les forces belligérantes et les citoyens ordinaires continuent d'être tués, parfois de manière déshumanisante. Les écoles et les hôpitaux continuent d'être attaqués par des personnes non identifiées. Des particuliers sont continuellement kidnappés et traumatisés. Dans ces dernières semaines, plusieurs atrocités commises dans ces zones ont été largement partagées sur les réseaux sociaux. Le 24 octobre 2020, des hommes armés non identifiés ont attaqué une école à Kumba dans la région du sud-ouest, ont massacré 7 élèves, faisant plusieurs autres blessés. Le 3 novembre 2020, des hommes armés non identifiés ont attaqué une école à Kumbo dans la région du nord-ouest, ont enlevé au moins 11 enseignants. Le 4 novembre, des hommes armés non identifiés ont attaqué une autre école à Limbe, dans la région du sud-ouest, et ont forcé des élèves et des enseignants en classe à se déshabiller, tout en les filmant et en les torturant. Ils ont fait circuler des vidéos sur les réseaux sociaux et les enseignants ont également incendié une section de l'école. Les populations vivent constamment dans la peur. Nous demandons au gouvernement de mener des enquêtes crédibles sur ces violations, de traduire en justice les coupables. Nous soulignons à nouveau la nécessité pour le gouvernement du Cameroun, en tant que porteur d'obligations envers ses citoyens, de continuer à rechercher une solution négociée durable à ce conflit par un dialogue sincère et constructif avec toutes les parties prenantes. Nous demandons une fois de plus à la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples d'intensifier sa collaboration avec d'autres organes concernés de l'Union africaine en vue d'une solution plus concrète et durable à ce conflit et aux violations atroces des droits humains dans les régions anglophones du Cameroun. Je vous remercie.
Monsieur Eric Bizimana, pour le tableau que vous faites de la situation dans les régions anglophones au Cameroun, avec ce que vous mentionnez, nous prenons bonne note des tueries, des atrocités commises, les différentes attaques dont on fait mention ces derniers ces derniers temps, l'enlèvement des enseignants, 11 d'entre eux, vous parlez des massacres de Kumba, demandez les enquêtes, mais la justice, c'est normal quand il y a mort d'homme, il faut qu'il y ait des enquêtes et que les victimes puissent être rétablies dans leurs droits, et donc il faut que la justice fonctionne. Vous demandez également que vous recommandez le dialogue, c'est tout ce que la Commission a toujours demandé. Et partout il y a les crises, hein, c'est pas qu'au Cameroun, partout il y a les crises, nous demandons toujours qu'il y ait le dialogue entre toutes les parties prenantes. Donc nous prenons bonne note du rapport de la situation que vous avez faite sur le Cameroun et nous vous remercions d'avoir mis le commissaire au courant de cet état de choses. Voilà. Merci beaucoup. Oui. Sur la liste, Lindy, are you there? Who is the next on the list? Abiola or Lindy or somebody? Yes. Who is the next on the list? And je vois que Lindy est là, non? Abiola aussi. Qui est le prochain sur la liste? Allô?
I'm checking.
Qui est en train de vérifier? Abiola? Abiola, can you read us, please?
Yes, one moment. It's after HRDA, it should be International Lawyers Org. Dalia Lotfi.
Yes, I'm available.
Okay. Okay, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Internationallawyers.org takes this opportunity to appreciate the commitment of the commissioners in this difficult time. We welcome their continuing their work and note that the people who need them have increased during the current pandemic. We also congratulate African states for the efforts they've made to address COVID-19. We believe that more could be done to enhance the partnership between the World Health Organization, the African Union, and the African states' capacity to confront epidemics, outbreaks, and pandemics of deadly diseases. In this regard, we also call the Commission's attention to the issue of equity in access to vaccines that remain unresolved and threaten to leave Africans behind. If we do create a vaccine for COVID-19, we urge states to increase their cooperation with COVAX, Gavi, and the World Health Organization and the Commission to promote this cooperation as a necessary part of the right to health that every African enjoys. We commend the Commission's statement in March urging states to reduce congestion of prisons and release those held on minor offenses. We regret that some states have failed to release those convicted of minor offenses or those at high risk due to age and/or their underlying health conditions. We remain concerned about the situation of human rights in Egypt, where political repression continues to increase. During these times of particularly dangerous threats to the health of detainees, we urge the Commission to take steps to urge the government not only to protect detainees held in overcrowded and unsanitary prisons, deprived of access to clean water, decent toilets, adequate nutrition, or urgent health treatment, but also to ensure transparency about COVID cases in prisons and immediately release those whose detention is not justified in such circumstances. Credible civil society actors have been reporting hundreds of custodial deaths over the past 7 years. In 2020, several NGOs reported deaths of dozens of prisoners due to deliberate deprivation of urgent medical care, some suspected of death by COVID. None have been investigated, and all appeals by IGOs and NGOs to release vulnerable prisoners, as well as those arbitrarily detained due to legitimate activities, were ignored. Leading opposition figure, 68 years old, Abdelmenam Abdelfutuh, human rights defender, Dr. Ahmed Amesha, 60 years old, and Hoda Abdelmenaim, a lawyer, 60 years old, have all been arbitrarily detained and at higher risk of the deadly effect of COVID due to their health condition. To this end, we request the Commission to make it clear that it will encourage and commit to decide in a timely manner communications challenging conditions of detention that don't guarantee the health of detainees and endangers their lives. Finally, we urge the Commission to provide an update on its report on climate change and human rights in Africa. We urge the Commission to find the needed funding for assistance, for the highly urgent research, and we offer our technical assistance in writing the report. We need urgent action to at least start the process of contributing to the protection of human rights of man-made climate change. We owe it to human beings who are increasingly subject to the adverse effects of climate change during this pandemic. Internationallawyers.org remains committed to supporting the work of the Commission in every way within its means. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame, pour votre discours que vous faites au nom des International Lawyers for Human Rights. Nous avez rappelé sur la pandémie du COVID-19 la nécessité du vaccin, le renforcement des systèmes de santé. Vous insistez sur la libération des détenus en raison de la surpopulation carcérale et la libération également de ceux qui ont commis des délits mineurs. Vous avez invoqué le cas de quelques défenseurs des droits de l'homme qui ont été arrêtés. La Commission prend bonne note de vos observations et vous remercie d'avoir respecté le timing qui vous a été imparti pour la présentation de votre discours sur l'état des droits de l'homme en Afrique. Monsieur le Président, vous pouvez récupérer la présidence de la séance. Nous avons eu deux ONG qui se sont succédées, International Human Rights, Lawyers for Human Rights. Vous pouvez récupérer la présidence. Merci.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, for that. Regarding the point about climate change and so on, I think the Commission has already indicated to you, internationallawyers.org, that that's not how it works. I don't think that we have to go back and forth on this ad infinitum. Thank you once again. IPAS, do we have IPAS with us? Eric Mundia. Commissioner Manuela, yes.
Presidente, não há tradução para francês para permitir traduzir para português.
Sorry, Commissioner.
Hello.
Okay, colleagues in the interpretation booth, can you kindly please help with that, with the interpretation, so that the French and Portuguese interpretations can also be carried forward. Thank you. Oh, all right, good. Thank you very much, Commissioner Manuela. Okay, we have IPAS. IPAS is the NGO with observer status number 421. You have the floor, please. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, everyone from Kenya. Honorable Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, Honorable Commissioners, distinguished state representatives, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols duly and respectfully observed. The IPAS Africa Alliance for Women's Reproductive Health and Rights would like to thank the African Commission on Human and People's Rights for its continued push towards advancing human rights in Africa, especially sexual reproductive health rights. The theme for this year, AU year, is Silencing the Guns, and IPAS also wishes to take into context the ongoing global pandemic occasioned by COVID-19, and will highlight the plight of women and girls in accessing sexual reproductive health services, including safe and legal abortion. This is the focus to the human rights situation in Africa. We recognize the important role the ACHPR plays in protecting all the rights of all persons living in Africa. And during this global pandemic, IPAS commends the efforts of the Commission and individual honorable commissioners who have sacrificed their time, resources to engage with various civil society organizations in raising awareness on protection of human rights, as well as putting out statements to assert this important message. Honorable Chairperson, state parties have put in commendable effort to ensure protection of human rights. However, much more needs to be done by state parties towards silencing the guns in Africa, and women and girls in state parties who are disproportionately affected by conflict to be able to access essential sexual reproductive health services, including access to safe abortion. This more so is compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic. State parties should be able to understand the nexus between silencing the guns and increasing health financing towards enhancing economic development. IPAS is currently documenting the impact of COVID on access to SRHR, including access to safe abortion services. This is after the World Health Organization provided guidelines incorporating sexual reproductive health, including safe and legal abortion, as part of essential services. We urge the Commission to continue advocating for resource allocation to the health service, including SRHR services. This year, this session, the Republic of Cameroon is coming up for review, and we would like the Commission to put the state party to task on access to healthcare services. The state party notes in its report under paragraph 234, 235, 237, 238, 244, 45, 252, and 253, including others, of the current position as regards sexual reproductive health services, and this is not limited only to post-abortion care services, family planning, availability of services, threat and harassment to women and girls who seek this service. We urge the Commission to recommend to the Republic of Cameroon to reform its abortion laws and to ensure that access to safe and legal abortion is available to all women and girls who need it. Also, we ask the state party to adopt their comprehensive sexuality education in relation with the curricula that has been updated by the UN technical guidance on sexuality education, and ensure that such programs connect to adolescents who are a majority of the persons who access reproductive health care. This will be able to help prevent early and forced marriage, sexual violence, unintended pregnancy, and unsafe abortion. IPAS will also want to highlight the influx of misinformation and fear-mongering by anti-choice groups in Africa. This is to the detriment in terms of implementation of the Maputo Protocol, and IPAS urges the Commission to recommend to Republic of Malawi, which is also coming for review, to encourage a conducive environment for national debate as a way of raising awareness on the need to eradicate restrictive laws on abortion in Africa, which do more harm to the lives and the health of women and girls. IPAS continues to encourage more African states to review restrictive and penal laws on abortion as part of implementing the ACHPR decriminalization of abortion campaign, which was launched in 2016 through the Office of the Special Rapporteur on Women's Rights. This campaign reaffirms the World Health Organization report that makes abortion illegal and does not reduce abortion rates nor deter women from getting abortion. However, there is a direct correlation between restrictive laws and women's access to safe abortion services. When abortion services are restricted by law, women are exposing themselves to significant risk of death or disability. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, given the foregoing, we call upon the Commission to 1. Urge state parties to remove existing legal and medical procedural barriers that impede women and girls to accessing reproductive health care, including safe abortion services. To use the necessary steps and measures to ensure that state parties submit state reports on the implementation of Maputo Protocol in line with the requisite guidelines, and decline to accept submission of state reports that do not have Part B on the Maputo Protocol. Lastly, continue working with member states in partnership with CSOs to scale up the implementation on the campaign of decriminalization of abortion campaign, and call for repeal of any laws on abortion that conflict with Article 14 of the Maputo Protocol and that violate the human rights of women and girls. Honorable Chairperson, IPAS Africa Alliance reiterates its commitment to supporting the Commission achieve its mandate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for IPAS. That statement bringing to us issues relating to the rights of women, particularly as it relates to access to health services, including reproductive health, safe and legal abortion services as well. Indeed, I think this is an important frontier in ensuring the full scope of the rights of women, the autonomy of women, their equal rights, indeed, and ensuring that society is not in charge of deciding on the autonomy of women as far as these issues are concerned. And the poll, Vice Chair, your mic is on. The call, therefore, for ensuring that within the framework of the Maputo Protocol, safe and legal abortion is provided, and that the campaign for scaling up on the decriminalization of abortion is also scaled up, is indeed something that is in accord with and needs to be part of our campaign for the full implementation of the Maputo Protocol. Thank you for that statement, whose contents we have taken note of, including through our special rapporteur on the rights of women. I am just taking note of a participant by the name Paul Sai, who is indicating that he has done a master's degree on equitable share of land in marital property rights of spouses after marriage in Tanzania. And he's saying that he encouraged and inspired by the discussion that we held at the panel on the General Comment number 6 on Article 7D of the Maputo Protocol to pursue his PhD degree on this subject area. The Commission welcomes and encourages Paul to indeed proceed with his PhD studies on this. Anything that we can help to support that, we will do so. I think the participation of academics and research organizations in advancing the cause of human rights, and particularly indeed the Maputo Protocol, is a very welcome development. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, colleagues, commissioners, staff of the Secretariat, distinguished delegates of states, NHRIs, and civil society organizations. This brings us to the end of today's session, the second day of the 67th ordinary session. I wish to thank you all for your kind participation and active engagement. And we look forward to have you again when we convene for the third day of the 67th ordinary session on Monday, the 16th of November. I wish you, in the meantime, to have a very good afternoon to you all, and a very good Sunday until we meet again on Monday. Thank you so much. Obrigado. Merci beaucoup. Shukran. Asante sana.